to the Kent Lapp Podcast.
Whit Smith, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, what a pleasure, man. I was looking forward to this one for sure. We've only met one time at Seth's party, right?
That's correct.
But fascinating. I could tell you're an interesting guy without even spending much time with you.
Yeah,
So-
I didn't even know you had a podcast.
Well,
I don't remember. I don't even think you disclosed that. Although I was smoking cigs and talking really fast. So
yeah. I bummed a cig off you. I don't smoke cigarettes very much, but
I don't smoke
occasionally
anymore at all.
Really?
Oh yeah.
But that crawfish boil was only like what, a month ago?
That's right.
A month and a half ago.
That's right.
You quit between now and then?
That's correct.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa. What kind now when you so there's a big range of cigarette smokers, of course.
Yes.
You throwing down a couple of packs a day,
Well,
or what
see,
were you doing?
I was mainly vaping, doing little vape pen stuff, and then I just got really. Honestly, when the coronavirus stuff hit, I was reading reports, and I already, I'm 34, I think, 34, and I've been smoking on and off since I was like 17.
Okay.
And so, or at least having some form of nicotine.
Yeah.
And it started hitting, the coronavirus started hitting, and I was like, this is a lung disease.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening. I'm watching videos of people dropping in Wuhan, China, back in late January or February. And I was like, well, I need to quit anyway because I want to limit my exposure into stores, like going into stores if I don't have to.
Okay.
And, I don't know. It's just another thing that I got to keep up with. I'm super unorganized.
Oh, yeah?
So, rather, I'm a by nature very scattered person.
Okay.
And so anything I can streamline.
Yeah.
Like Steve Jobs, used to wear the same thing every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's kind of like that.
Big fan of that.
I don't want to have to keep up with where my nicotine is.
Now, but do you know that there was some studies, at least, that smoking actually helped with the virus?
That. Yeah, I saw that. But that's so. It's so funny about that's just typical, right?
Yeah.
An unprecedented global event happens, and people are like, people who are overweight, pre-existing conditions, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to stop. But the main reason I stopped was because I wanted to. I wanted for the health benefits.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, I'm in a global pandemic's happening. My business is kind of paused for the next couple of weeks. And it'll take me about 4 days to detox off this. And
So how many cigarettes were you smoking a day?
I don't know. Honestly.
Okay.
I mean, two. I mean, I was pretty heavy, so two of the little Juul pods or whatever.
Okay,
which is 2 packs.
Okay, gotcha. So you said you were mostly vaping.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just this past weekend we had friends from New York and a lifetime friend and his wife. And we went out to a restaurant. Imagine that.
Yep.
We had to go into Williamson County.
You got to go to the outer counties for that.
We tried Nashville. I thought they were open in Nashville.
You got to go to the Freedom counties for that.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. We could not find anything in Nashville, which is such a shame. You know what I mean? And so we had to go down to Franklin. We wound up at Sperry's, which was great. We had a good time.
That pulls on my heartstrings.
You like that place?
Oh, dude.
We really liked it. We were in a back room, and it was just us for a while. There were 6 around a table. The way it's decorated and all that dark wood.
I've written
and everything.
a poem about that. I've written a poem about that restaurant. Not that location, but the one in Belmead. Yeah.
Really? Well, someone said the Sperry's in Belmead is the oldest steakhouse in Nashville.
Yeah, that or Jimmy Kelly's down off Elliston near where Cafe Coco was. Off
Interesting. Well, so we were there, and we hadn't been to a restaurant in a long time, like months. You know what I mean? And and here's our friends. Oh, and he had a 30th birthday like a month ago with no party. Because of COVID and everything, so he had no party, and he doesn't like attention.
Right. So
we just made this, perfect. So we took him out to eat, and it kind of turned into his 30th birthday party. And but so we were eating good, and we got like 3 or 4 different desserts, and everything was good. And I just had the need I felt like I needed to smoke something. Yeah. So I bought like my first pack of cigarettes ever.
Yep.
And smoked like 2, but didn't pull them into my, I didn't inhale. I didn't pull it into my lungs.
I did not
inhale.
Yeah.
Sure. I did not have sex according to the definition.
You're like, how many packs a day were you smoking? I'm like, well, if anyone's doing my insurance later on, for insurance purposes, I don't know.
Not so much. Yeah, exactly. But I have some Black and Milds here at the office, and I really never smoke them anymore either. I don't know why I felt like smoking. Like occasionally, I just feel like smoking something. I think it was like the sugar and everything because I've been eating pretty clean. And by the way, there have been studies that show if you do eat like a lot of sugar, that does correlate to high tobacco and alcohol use when you're not eating. Yeah. It's interesting. There's a correlation there.
That definitely. So anyhow, sure.
I really enjoyed the 2 cigarettes in the yard that night, and but there's a jar over there with a bunch of cigar wrappers. I used to smoke, a fair bit of cigars, one a week, one every other week. I haven't in a while.
See, that's completely foreign. That concept of like, I bought a pack of cigarettes and had, 1 or 2, and I didn't even really inhale. I did not inhale. Like that's completely foreign to me.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Because if you had them, you would just smoke through them?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's with everything in my life, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I haven't had anything to drink in 12 years.
Really?
Yeah. So...
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't...
So so you cut out drinking, but you were still doing tobacco.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
We'll have to talk more about that.
Sure.
But, tobacco, I assume it's because alcohol led your behavior into places that you weren't good maybe, and tobacco maybe less so, but tobacco is a lot more dangerous. Just looking up stats recently, like it's probably a good deal you quit because like 480 to 500,000 people a year are dying every year from tobacco.
Tobacco is more dangerous for your health.
Yeah.
But alcohol is more dangerous for your soul.
100%. No, 100%. 100%. That's why I think we've talked about this before, that the best case for legalization of all drugs, whether you like the drugs or not or whatever, but the best case for legalization of all drugs is alcohol. If alcohol is legal in this country and we can tax it and use it and we're not all dead already and we're not all out killing each other, then we can handle it. Now, I'm not saying everyone should be doing drugs. I'm just saying there's probably a better way than making a law about it and then particularly putting minority people in cages based on those laws.
Sure. Yeah, those are 2 huge discussions.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, those are huge, very big discussions.
I was going to pull back to, I wanted to ask you about, you wrote a poem on Sperry's. What's all that about?
Well, I published a book of poetry in 2013, I think. 2014. I can't remember dates anyway. I can't remember how old I am half the time. But yeah, one of the poems that was in the book was about that restaurant. The restaurant in Belmead I grew up going to that restaurant for like birthdays and special occasions with my family. And
oh yeah?
Yeah, so that's like one of the old OG, like old Nashville, like towny steakhouses. And
okay.
So what they did, if you haven't been to that location, what they did in Cool Springs is they put the Cool Springs location, and when I went in there, I was shocked because it was like Disney quality, like reproduction of the original steakhouse in Belmead.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just, the steaks are great. I love the steaks. There's fancier steaks in town.
Yep.
There's fancier food in town.
Yep.
But there's just nothing like, I don't know. It's just maybe because it's from my childhood and it's
probably, but it was good. I will say that.
And also it's just the vibe. It's
Yeah.
like old Nashville.
Yes.
West Belmead. It's just the most Belmead place. It's more Belmead than Belmead.
It really, I could totally see that. And I did not even grow up here.
Yeah.
See, we almost didn't go because my brother's wife said 2 things that almost derailed the whole thing. One, that is, if you're an old person, you probably like it. And 2, that it had a salad bar. And so it almost derailed the 30th birthday party. And then we went there and loved it.
Oh yeah. See, I like what old people like.
Yeah. So I get that.
I'm like,
you're an old soul.
Yeah. I like,
I could see that.
I like to eat. I like that the waiters are super attentive.
Yes.
And it's not a lot of like, it's the same menu and
yes.
And the real heads know about it too. Like, I mean, I was eating there one evening last year, and we got up, and our friends were coincidentally or providentially eating next to us at the table next to us. And we get up, and they text us later, and we're like, "Oh, when you left, John Prine and Bill Murray came and sat down at your table." And like, they just kind of slid in there and ate food. And
now, forgive me, who are those guys?
Bill Murray, the actor. And like Caddyshack. Yeah. And John Prine is a famous, I guess you call him Americana country artist who he actually just died. And they were reporting he died of COVID this year. So
yes,
a couple weeks ago.
I saw some of that.
And I'm not like a
Yeah.
John Prine fanatic by any
Yep.
means, or I mean, Bill Murray's like he's classic, but
Yeah.
I didn't like freak out. But it was like, oh,
Right.
okay.
That was pretty cool.
And they're older dudes, but
Yeah. Well, it counts, man. Did you have, we had, shoot, now I forget what they call it. It was like a little bundt cake with caramel drizzled all over it. It was wicked good. I will say that. It's the best dessert I've had in some time.
No, I can't remember.
That's probably what led to the need for cigarettes after that.
No, the best thing they have there is they got the steaks, and then at the end, if you do the bananas Foster, they bring out the thing and cook it.
Yes. But have you seen how much butter and brown sugar they put in that?
Oh, yeah.
Like a whole stick or two of butter,
Dude,
and then the brown sugar.
That's my clean eating.
Dude, the brown sugar, I kid you not. Okay, the best would be your water glass right there. Right. It was about as much water as you had in there right now. Mm-hmm. There was 2 of those things, brown sugar they dumped in there. So much butter and brown. But it was very good. Yeah. It was delicious.
Where are you from again?
Upstate New York.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, upstate New York. We moved here in 2014.
Okay.
So you're native here?
Yeah.
Okay. So you were born and raised in Nashville.
That's right.
Where in Nashville?
Over near Radnor Lake.
Oh, close to Creve Hall? Or on the other side?
On the other side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Siblings?
2 younger brothers.
Okay. Parents still living or still in town? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So you got some roots here.
Mm-hmm. I'm a 6th generation Tennessean.
Oh,
my children are 7th generation. I got family. My mom's from Memphis. My dad's from Knoxville. They met at University of Tennessee. And then moved to Nashville.
Wow, very cool. Mm-hmm. The only person I've met, at least that I've known, has longer roots here in this city was Brad Perry. He was on last week. He teaches African American history at Brentwood Academy.
I know Coach Perry. I took his class at BA.
Really?
Yeah.
You took his class?
Oh, yeah.
He does not look old enough to have taught you.
I know. What does he have, like 7 kids? 6 kids?
I think it might be 6.
Yeah, he doesn't look old enough to have 6 kids.
No, he does
either.
not. So he was one of your teachers at BA? Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, he's 10th generation. Yeah. I think either he or his kids are 10th generation Nashvillians. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. Alcohol. How long do you say? And what drove that decision?
So 12 years as of February 25th. February 25th, 2008 is when I got sober.
February 25th, 2008.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So...
you couldn't.
I mean, I was 21 years old. Yeah. I mean, I was a complete degenerate. My life was, total chaos. And, I just didn't want to live anymore. So I went to my dad and was like, I don't want to live anymore. And he's like, all right, well, let's go to a shrink. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, cool. And so we go to the shrink and the shrink's like, you want to go somewhere? And I was like, all right, I guess. So I went to rehab, back in December 2007.
Okay.
And then I got out January 2008, relapsed briefly, and then got sober in February.
Wow. Yeah. So Seth Crosby, who introduced, or we were at his party together, mentioned you have a pretty interesting story or spiritual journey.
Sure, yeah.
Can you just tell us all about that? Where you want to jump in there? I'm assuming it has to do with your decision to stop drinking alcohol. And so forth.
I mean, it's all intertwined,
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, where to start? Well, I'm born and raised in Nashville. Was raised Presbyterian, I would say. I was raised. It's difficult to say. I mean, it's like somewhat nominally in a way. I mean, we went to church, much to my chagrin, almost every Sunday. So we were going every Sunday. I was going to Sunday school. But, I was a class clown in Sunday school and regular school, got terrible grades, wasn't paying attention, was more interested in making people laugh than anything else. And so I wasn't really absorbing much of the Calvinism other than once saved, always, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and that was perfect because I'm like, all right, well, I'm
good to go.
I'm good to go. I'm good to go. Whatever. I mean, cool. But theology and philosophy formally really didn't intrigue me. Early on when I was younger, I didn't know any. Although I went to like Brentwood Academy and went to private schools here in town, and went to people who were much smarter than me and went to much fancier schools than I did. It just wasn't I don't know. It wasn't. I was more interested in partying and girls and having fun and out running from the cops and just like out, just
living large.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, as a teenager. I get it.
Yeah, and so, so I went to I barely graduated from BA, and then I went to a college called Birmingham Southern in Birmingham, Alabama, in 2005, the fall of 2005, and it was the first time I'd lived alone. And I get there and I'm like, okay, I got 8 a.m. classes every day, and I'm not going to make those. And I'm already like in an alcoholic spiral, and so I'm just going to party and meet people, and that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And
did you know anyone when you went there?
No.
Okay.
There was I think a couple girls from my high school who went to play soccer there, but like I didn't, I knew them, but I wasn't, they definitely weren't going to try to hang out with me.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't the crowd.
Yeah.
Now this school was really small. It was like 1,500 people at the time. So that's like that's like a high school.
Yeah.
But I get down there and, I just quickly, everything becomes overwhelming. My dad comes down for Jan term to come pick me up I didn't even call him. And it was like Christmas time. And I was like, can you come pick me up? And he's like, you've got your own car. I'm like, yeah, but I'm like not doing well. And I barely even talked to them that semester,
The parents.
Yeah. And so he comes down and he's like, oh man, I can just tell he's like, yeah, it's my oldest son, he's failing to launch. It's like hard, like not only like, it's like SpaceX failure to launch, but like the, like half of the rocket's on fire.
Sure.
Yeah. So not only did I not launch, it's like on fire.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's gotta be tough as a parent too.
Yeah. So he takes me back to Nashville, and, I'm like, I'm just not happy here. I don't want to go back to school. And so I go work at Waffle House. I go, do a bunch of odd jobs like valeting, just kind of living at their house. But 18 or so, 19 at the time. And then I enroll in a very small school called Aquinas College, which is here in Nashville. And my dad was, paying for my college, and he's like, look, there's this really small school here in town that's kind of off the beaten path. A lot of nerds there. You're not going to get in a lot of, there's not a lot of, the student body's like 500 people.
Oh, wow.
It's, run by nuns. You're not going to get in trouble here. And so, I go, and of course I find my one road dog, troublemaker friend there, and I got into a bunch of trouble there. But a lot of my friends from high school were going to Belmont, which is in town. So I was like, all right, I got to go to, like, I'm going to go to Belmont. Like, I want to go to a real, like, school, as I thought, they're really focused on academics here. They don't have any sports teams or anything. Not that I care much about Belmont sports teams. Sorry, Kyle.
Yeah. Who's Kyle?
My buddy Kyle, who's like super fanatic. But
oh, really?
Yeah.
Did he go there?
Yeah, okay. I met him there. But I go to Belmont with a bunch of my high school friends who went, and quickly, like, that's where I took off. Like, just like super heavy partying every night, like till 3, 4 in the morning, just wake up, go to class, work a part-time job, and yada, yada. So by 2007, and this is all jumble. I wish my wife were here to tell me. She's like my memory bank.
Yeah.
I
get that.
I don't know. I can't. These are all approximate. There's a book. So the Bruce Springsteen's saxophone player. Do you know what I'm talking about? The big black dude who played saxophone.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. He published an autobiography, and I've never read it, but my friend was telling me about it, and he said that, like, it's printed normally, except for some sections are in like light gray, like the print is in gray.
Yeah.
And that's indicative of like when he can't really remember.
No way. I've never seen a book like that ever.
Me neither.
That's cool, actually.
So that's kind of like, that's my, if I were to ever write an autobiography, I might employ
We're
that
getting
method.
into the gray letters right now.
Yeah. Like I don't, and people are always like, dude, do you remember when you did this? And like, you had to run from this and that. I'm like, I don't know. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
So, long story short, I'm at Belmont, and just I'm having like a total like crisis, just alcoholic crisis. I'm like, my life is terrible. I want to die. And so I go to my dad and he's like, all right, well, let's go to the shrink. So I go to the shrink and the shrink's like, well, do you want to go somewhere? So I go to rehab and come back and I'm still like immersed in the same friend group. And I relapse briefly and then I get sober again. And, I'm studying at the time at Belmont and I'm studying sociology. And so I'm like drifting into hardcore, like Marxist, quasi-communist leanings. I mean, it just, it wasn't the explicit atmosphere of that time and that department and all that, but it was laying the groundwork for stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So hardcore critical theory stuff. And, got really into that. And, but at the same time, I was also like a total hedonist, libertine, just like a complete, and people would be like, well, what, you don't believe in God or anything. I'm like, no, I mean, no, no. I mean, I remember when I was in 7th grade, I had this kind of great Nietzschean, ecstasy when I remember I busted the shackles of my, Presbyterian upbringing, and I was like, "Oh, God's not real. Like he's dead. Like so I'm free." Even though now I understand freedom as being freedom to choose the good, right? And within the landscape of good things, like true freedom isn't choosing the bad. In fact, that's how you get enslaved. But yeah. So I where was I talking about?
You had relapsed a little bit.
Yeah. And then I got sober. And so I was studying sociology, and then I started getting into philosophy. I had some buddies who were studying philosophy. And so we started studying the classics, Aristotle, the pre-Socratics, Plato, the Western canon. And I was like, oh, this is more in like what I want to talk about. Like I'm into this kind of stuff, like ultimate things. And I've always been into that. Like, but I was like, oh man, this is great. The problem is because of my alcoholism, Belmont was like, you can't go here anymore. Your grades are so terrible, and you were such a jerk. I'm trying to censor myself. You're such a jerk. You can't be here anymore. And so my dad was like, I'm done, like paying for your school. No, I'm not doing.
Are you in your freshman years still at this point?
Okay. I think.
Okay.
Gray.
Yeah.
I don't know. And so anyway, my dad's like, I'm like, Dad, look, all right, I've gotten sober. Although I'm not a huge fan of formal schooling, I do need to finish my degree, and I would really be a blessing if you would give me one more shot. And he's like, okay, one more shot, and it's at this little small Catholic school, and I don't want to hear anything else. If you fail out or whatever, or you leave, that's it. And so I go, and I go back sober to this little school, and
the same one you had gone.
Yeah, because I come back from Birmingham, worked, which that's a whole nother podcast about my time at like Waffle House and all these other places.
I can imagine. You a line chef, or what were you doing?
No. I was like the dead shift. Like I was a dead shift waiter.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, and that was back when you could smoke cigs and wear the little hat.
No
and
way.
Like, oh yeah. And it was like men's clubs would come in.
You could smoke cigs in Waffle House and serve people up.
It's in upstate New York, dude.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it probably was allowed then. I remember back when there was smoking and non-smoking sections.
That's true.
For sure.
That's true.
So yeah, I guess if you're smoking in a restaurant, what's the difference if your waiter's doing it?
Exactly. Yeah. And so anyway, I go back to so I get to Aquinas after coming back, and I was like, yo, these people are like hardcore Christian people. I've never met anybody like these people. Like they're not, because and it's really it's kind of a class lens too. Like when you're growing up and you're upper middle class and you're mainline Protestant, at least in my view, it's like a polite kind of thing you do. And not Georgia O'Keeffe, Flannery O'Connor. I don't know if you're familiar with her, Catholic novelist, Southern Gothic novelist. She talks about that. She's got a really great quote. I wish I had it memorized. Basically where she's like, the Southern Catholic has more in common with like a backwoods prophet preacher kind of person than they do like a person where religion is just a polite formality that you go through. Yeah. Like, I mean, you just
see that absolutely.
And so I don't know. I like, but in any case, I go to this hardcore Catholic college, and I'm like, these people are like hardcore. They actually believe this stuff. Like there's like these ascetic kind of not mendicant, but like ascetic ladies wearing 12th century outfits that they made by hand, and they all have like 2 PhDs, and they believe in like the Trinity, and they really believe Jesus was real and that all the miracles are real, and they believe that like the Eucharist is really his body, and and all this stuff. And I'm like, they believe in the true presence. I'm like, this is, and like I could just smell, and also like, they're like it's like a monarchist type bastion, like they're conservative Catholics. So
yes,
they're traditional Catholics. And so like, you could just kind of smell it on them, and you're like, whoa, these people are kind of wild. And like, I was a total like very progressive, like completely secular person at the time. And I was like, I don't have any time for this. This is like going to a medieval college. I don't, what are they going to tell me about geocentrism next?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what, like, and so I left. I left and was like, Dad, I got to get out of here. I got to go to Belmont, like go to the party, white Ray-Bans, school, like audio engineer school. Let's go hang out with all the guitar players, Yeah. And so anyway, I go back to Aquinas sober, and it really just hit me like, so first I get sober, and like that clears up a lot of that and gets rid of that demon. Right. And like, so my mind is getting more sound at this point. And I know my wife's if my wife even watches this, she's gonna be like, yeah, your mind's sound. Okay. Yeah, that's a stretch, dude.
Like, who are you kidding, buddy?
Yeah, that's a stretch. Like, wait until all is revealed at the end of time. Okay. All right. What's that verse? It's in Luke where he's like, everything said in secret's going to be revealed. Like, no use gossiping or being just, anyway.
Yeah.
You'll all see. Anyway. So I get to Aquinas, and I'm studying, but I had this foundation in the classics, and I'm not like a scholar, but like I had exposure to, and 4 a.m. discussions about like private property and things like that. Yada yada. And I go through Aquinas, and I remember sitting in a class on sexual ethics, and this is when it clicked. Right, I'm like sitting there. I'm sitting in class with a girl that I had like hooked up with before, and I'm like, which is ironic. She was in nursing school at this little school, and we're sitting in class together. And my now friend, who was my professor at the time, was going over some aspect of Catholic sexual ethics, and I just remember going, like, well, the Catholics, these people have got a good systematic thing going on. I just don't buy the premise, that Jesus Christ is Lord, and that he's the Logos, and that he was incarnate, and that he founded a church, and that there was apostolic succession, and that this is the true church. I was like, I don't buy the premise, but they're, syllogistically, their argument's pretty tight. And if I were to become a Christian, I mean, I don't know, I'd have to seriously consider Catholicism. I mean, they're making some extremely heavy claims with good evidence, and and I was like, but I'm Jesus, okay,
yeah.
Let's just get through school. Jesus is okay. He was, and I moved past so you're familiar with Lewis's trilemma?
I'm not.
Okay. C.S. Lewis wrote, and I think it was in Mere Christianity. Peter Kreeft has expanded upon this trilemma, but the trilemma is thus: it's that Jesus doesn't leave room for you to call him just a good guy.
Yeah, I am familiar with that.
A good man.
He's not just a good moral teacher.
He can't be just a good man.
Yeah.
He can't just be a good groovy dude because
he is who he says he is, or he's a lunatic.
He's a lunatic. He's either the Lord, he's a lunatic, or he's a liar.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, and Peter Kreeft, who's a Catholic apologist guy, he's expanded it to like 8 or 9 like dimensions of that argument, but I don't know him off the top of my head. But anyway, I'd moved past like, oh, Jesus is a cool dude. Like I'd moved past the pluralism, right? Where I'm like, oh, everyone's good, and like they just kind of believe in whatever, and people are good, and you don't be a jerk at Target, and if you don't be a jerk at Target and you pay your taxes and you don't get in Facebook fights, you're a good dude, or like what some call like moralistic therapeutic deism. Yeah, I'd move past that and be like, all right, well, there's real truth claims being made that have actual consequences on how people act. You know, like if you believe something's true, you're going to that'll generally flow. Your behavior flows from the truth claims you make in your brain. You know, and that's another argument, like whether it's the passions or the intellect. But in any case, I was in school and I'm like, okay, well, I just don't buy that there's like a supernatural. I mean, like I got like I'm sober and that was kind of miraculous or whatever, but it was just unlikely.
That there's actually a God?
Yeah. Well, it was just unlikely that an event that I would ever get sober.
Gotcha.
And so I'm like, well, like, well, I don't know, And so and then when I tell people and I told you this story when I was at the party, when I tell people the elevator pitch for like my conversion, people will ask me like, why are you Catholic? And I'm like, well, because it's true. No, but like, how did it happen? Okay, well, I intellectually assented, so I got to the point, and G.K. Chesterton talks about the conversion. There's these phases of conversion to the Catholic Church, where the first step to the conversion to the Catholic Church is that you're fair to the Catholic Church. You're fair to it, because at the end of the day, like, if you look at the claims made by the Catholic Church, they're radical and they're extreme, and there's a reason why they get martyred all the time because they make really wild claims. And in any case, so I was like, well, okay, well, the first step was I intellectually kind of assented to the solidness of this religion, right? And then I got attacked by a demon. Yeah. And so, and outside of like addiction and like some depression in my life, I have no like psych issues. Never been admitted to a psych hospital, never been arrested, none of that. And it's like one night I'm writing a paper for an Aquinas class, and I'm up in my third story apartment by myself. And I was dating my wife at the time, and she lived with her mom. And I was sitting there writing the paper, and all of a sudden, like literally, I stand up against my will, and this force, I think it was a demon. Literally, it was like, well, I can't say what. It was saying some vulgar things to me, and it was like
audibly.
Yeah, in my I could hear it. Wow. It wasn't like it was in the room; it was like in my brain. And so I was like, and it's like you're gonna go into the bathroom and just slit your wrists, like you're terrible, blah blah blah, cursing, and I was like, whoa, and I was walking, and I remember, and I like. Kind of like, it was like out of a movie. I literally like kind of turned my body and started walking instead towards my towards my den, which my balcony is outside of that. And it was like, great, you're going to jump off the balcony like head first, you piece of that, you're going to, and I was like, whoa, and I started crying. And this is within a matter of like 10 seconds. And I just started crying, and I was like, and I said, God help me. And the minute I said that, boom, it went away, and I like collapsed on the ground. And I was just like, whoa. And so I called my girlfriend, who's my now wife, who was a Christian. She was raised Pentecostal. And that's another thing on a side. If you ever are dealing with demons, there's only two groups that you're going to generally go to. It's Pentecostals and priests. So, because they're really the only people who, that's very broad, but right. They're the strongest forces. Those are the strongest denominations that believe in demons, like that they exist, and that they can have practical effects.
Yeah, that's well said.
And so, I always say that. But so I call my now wife, and I was like, "Hey, this just happened to me, and I need you to come over here," because I wasn't like, because it was so. It was so shocking. It wasn't like, oh, I need to go to Vandy Psych. I'm like, I'm having issues. I'm now schizophrenic. It wasn't like a psychotic break. It was like I'm writing a paper, listening to jazz or whatever. I don't know. Listening to whatever is on my Pandora, because you listened to Pandora back then.
Oh, I remember Pandora.
Yeah, and it popped up and literally, and that happened. I was like, So she came over and like anointed my head with oil and prayed over me. And I was just like, I need to seek refuge, because that was that was like a clear and present. I always call it my Saul of Tarsus moment. It was like a Saul of Tarsus moment where I got knocked off my horse and I was like, I didn't go blind, but I was literally attacked. And I was like, I got to figure this out. And so I did some like deeper, I just refocused and came into the Catholic Church like 2 years after that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So, but I was on my merry way, And there's been some other, demonic oppression that's happened throughout my life, but that was the most intense, like overtly oppressive, like borderline possession type thing. And I don't, I'm telling you this on this podcast, but whenever I'm in private conversation telling people that story, I usually am like, unless I'm like really, trying to witness to somebody, like if I'm at a party and someone's like, why are you Catholic? I'm not, now I might say it, but like early on I wouldn't be like, it's true. And I got attacked by a demon. Right. I'll do that now, but like I usually would reserve that to talking with Christians.
I see.
Because, and then even then you got to be careful which kind of Christians you're talking to. Cause they might be like, oh, okay. Oh yeah, sure. You got attacked by a demon.
And instantly start looking for other people to talk to in the room.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, that's the long version of how I came into the Catholic Church. But it's been wild. I've got a friend who's coming into the church who I talk to regularly. And one of the things that I've noticed is, I've just been noticing over the past, I guess I've been Catholic now for a little over 6 years. And since then, all of these weird things have been happening, like not like paranormal or anything like that. It's like these micro miracles will happen, where it's just like God's winking at me. There's that, I think like Bob Goff or someone has, the Blue Like Jazz guy has a book out. It's like God winking at you or whatever. One of those kind of books. But it's true. Like these little coincidental things, that are really providential that happen. And just from like meeting people to like meeting you. I don't even know you had a pot,
Yeah.
I'm out smoking cigs.
Yeah.
Like tired.
I'm burning my mouth off eating crawfish for the first
I'm
time in my
crawfish,
life.
And I'm like, also like, should I be at a crawfish boil with a pandemic on the horizon? Like,
I don't even think the pandemic was. No, yeah, we knew about it.
We knew about it, but
sure,
there was
Good
the
point.
Tennessee lag down here. We're like, whatever. I mean, I was like, well, I don't care anyway. Whatever. I mean, but yeah, I mean, for meeting you, meeting my wife, meeting all these different people, it's just, I've had just some pretty wild experiences in my life, especially since I've become Catholic. And there is that psychological phenomenon where, like, once something starts happening, you look for the pattern. And so there's like pattern bias or whatever. Yeah, I get that. It's kind of like with my experience with the demon, it was like, am I having a psychotic break or am I having a real encounter with something that's outside of myself that is very uncanny and crazy and wild? And, I've lived in my body a long time. I know how it reacts to things, and I've never experienced anything like this in my life.
Yep.
Man, I'm just like, no, this isn't some, I don't need to go to Vandy Psych right now type of thing. And in the same way, like there's that, I forget what it's called, some sort of effect, like Dunbar effect or something, where it's like, once you have these pattern recognitions, you tend to have cognitive bias towards these pattern. Yeah, okay, maybe 30% of it is that. The other ones are just too wild, and it'd be too involved to go into it on this podcast. There's no like, I met the president, and, I turned the corner, met the president or something. It's like just the tapestry that's been woven of my life is just made up of all these crazy encounters with people.
Yeah.
And like with ideas and events and, so.
It would seem hard for someone to make a case that this is coincidental, there is no God, and we are just here making our own way.
Yeah.
It'd be tough to explain away that providential stuff that you're talking about. Yeah,
I mean, there's probably people that listen to the podcast who might go, oh, okay, this guy, he needs to maybe go talk to someone. I don't know. I mean, you talk to my wife, she might want me to go to half the time. Like, but people can make people make do, But I remember early on when I had that Nietzschean moment in 7th grade, I remember going, God, it's basically, so like when Nietzsche, and I heard this from Ravi Zacharias, who just died. It was a really great point about Nietzsche. So when Nietzsche, produced, I think that was in Antichrist, or I don't think it was Thus Spake Zarathustra. I can't never say that, but I think it was in the Antichrist where he's like, God is dead and we've killed him. What do we do? And the guy comes down from the mountain and is like, oh my gosh, what? Like, oh my God, literally, what do we do? We've killed God, and all of our telos, all of our teleology, all of the end of mankind, the very direction that man is ordered towards is not true. And now what do we do? And so Nietzsche's answer was, well, we become the Übermensch. We overcome our humanity, and we rise above our over. We become the overman. And it's like we become the Superman, and that I tried that. And it just leads. It's just, Chesterton, all the giants. They talk about this. The easiest tenet of Christianity to prove is original sin. In my opinion, it's like you have kids.
Yeah,
dude.
Oh, heck. Kids aside, I have me.
I've got me, but like,
yeah.
And my daughter is 6, and she's pretty sheltered. She wants to lie.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yes.
Why does she want to do that?
Yes.
Huh.
Not even 6, 18-month-old.
Yeah,
Aria's 18 months, beautiful. She looks like her mom. She's a gorgeous little girl. And just in the last 3 months, I'm telling you, you tell her no, and she will walk right over to you and pinch you or hit your face.
Yeah.
She can barely walk.
Yeah. Oh, but that's just the cognitive. That's just that's how humans are so successful, because they've evolved to be to have a fine blend of self-centeredness and altruism. Have a fine blend of altruism and self-centeredness. Yeah. Okay. No.
Yeah.
I'm Occam's razoring it on this one.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, look at humanity.
Yes.
And then Ross Douthat, who wrote a really great book called Heretics, a Nation of what is it like? I think it was called or Bad Religion, a Nation of Heretics. He's a New York Times columnist, a Catholic guy, convert from Pentecostalism, and he went on Bill Maher. Great clip if you've never seen it. And he's on Bill Maher. Bill Maher, I love Bill Maher. Like, I don't love his philosophy or his. Well, I don't love his I don't love his political positions or but I love how honest. There's a degree of honesty with Bill Maher. That's nice, and he's funny. So
is it on YouTube?
He can be funny. Yeah, it's on YouTube.
What's the name?
Ross Douthat.
Ross Douthat on Bill Maher.
Yeah, and he gets on there and I'll just say it for the listeners who aren't going to go look it up. I'm not going to do it justice, but Bill Maher's like, Ross, you're a smart guy. You went to Harvard, but come on, man, the virgin birth, come on, dude. And he goes, man, I don't know what to like. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, there's a lot of, there's just been a lot of dead bodies over these religious wars, and Ross retorts back and goes, yeah, I mean, the 20th century is, more dead than all the wars previous combined, and from the Soviet Union alone, like at least 50 million or whatever it is, 50 million dead. And that's an atheistic, authoritarian regime. A lot of dead bodies over some atheism, and it's just it's just, you get these common attacks with Christianity, and it's like, so I'm at the point now where I'm like, all right, okay, that's a bit rich,
Yeah.
And everything's become such a meme now. You've got these different kinds of people, or you got the scientistic people who are like, well, it's like, dude, when I was in 8th grade, I remember after I jettisoned Christianity, I was like, well, I literally it was like an existential. I was writing in my journal. I don't even journal often, but I kept like a journal very briefly. I remember I was writing like, well, if there's no God and the soul doesn't endure, I didn't say it like this. I was in 8th grade, but I'm like, if there's no God and blah, 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 why wouldn't you just kill yourself?
I agree.
And that was Sartre's thing.
Yeah.
Like, why, And Sart's is like, well, because you want to smoke cigs and partake in, orgies and whatever else. You know what I mean? It's like completely degenerate, but like, well, you just kind of limp on the best you can.
Totally, but the only problem with that though is, it's cigs taste good, and you can have some fun with alcohol, and you could, orgies presumably you can have a good time and those types of things. But the pain though that comes after, and sometimes even during that, you're having to stuff down, and just the hopelessness and despair. I don't know that it's worth it. Like I don't know that those things, if there is no God,
I can tell you from experience. Degeneracy is not worth it. I've been through it. I've been through a lot of degenerate things. I've done a lot of bad things. I've been a bad guy, And
it's not worth it.
Not worth it.
The pleasure's not worth the pain.
Man. Dude, I almost died from it.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember going to my doctor at like 20 years old and getting a checkup, and he'd bring the blood results back and go, man, your liver's getting kind of, you need to,
really,
And I'm like, well, I'm not trying to Hank Williams it over here, just die in the back of a car at 28 or whatever. But I mean, whoa, really? I'm just a normal party guy. It's delusion. I'm like a normal party person at Belmont. No, I mean,
worse than normal.
Yeah. And it's just not worth it. And that's why when I went to my first confession, best thing ever, man. You literally go to a dude you don't know. And you go, hey, and you're talking to God, and you go, hey, I've done all this bad stuff, and here it is. Like, not like code names for it. Like, here's the bad. Because God already knows. And that's one of the reasons why confession is so therapeutic, is because God already knows all this. And there's a reason why Christianity is confessional. It's therapeutic.
Yeah.
There's nothing like, and therapy just means healing. That's just what that word means in Greek or whatever. And I think, but it's just to heal. And the Eastern Orthodox tradition is, they always have viewed the church as like a hospital, like a field. And that's how I view the church. And that's how I view the sacraments, really. So as a Catholic, like when I go to confession and I partake in the Eucharist and receive our Lord, it's like going to a field hospital in battle, because we're to pick up our cross, but we're also to put on the armor of God and really get out there and fight, because there's a real battle happening for people's souls. And just, it sounds so tired to say that, like, oh, there's a battle for people's souls out here. That, like, look at our country, at the suicide rate. Yeah. I mean, my sister-in-law works in the ICU at Vanderbilt, and I asked her like 2 weeks, like maybe a month and a half ago, I was like, how's it going? Is the COVID crazy? Because that's where all the COVID people go, is Vandy. They're the only people who can really handle it. And she's like, it's crazy. There are more overdoses than COVID people, like by a big number.
Fatalities from overdoses?
People
or just
like
people
on life
coming
support in the ICU.
When was it, 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, like 6 weeks ago.
So like mid-April?
Yeah. And I go, what? Wow. I go, wait, what? And
biggest demons within, man.
Yeah, man. But there there's real despair happening.
Yes.
And when I go to confession and go to mass and participate in works of mercy, feeding the poor and doing all the things Jesus told us to do, going and visiting the imprisoned, the sick, all those things. It's a field hospital. I go and I'm like, okay, I sinned this past couple weeks, and it's kind of derailed me a little bit. I need to get back on track. And it's good to just go tell somebody that, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we can get into a larger discussion about the sacrament of confession and or whatever, but just if you want to bring it down to like a base ecumenical level, well, there's nothing better than going and telling somebody what's going on. Yeah. And like, oh man, this, I've been really struggling with this, because at the end of the day, if you're struggling with a particular sin, you've got to tell somebody about it. I mean, Jesus even says it. And that's one thing when I'm defending confession, people are like, oh, well, I just go straight to God. I'm like, me too. But I'm also going through a priest to God. Mm-hmm. But Jesus literally, when he says confess unto one another, it's not a suggestion. Right. He's not like, oh, hey guys, you might want to confess to each other. I mean, it's cool. Yeah. He's like commanding you. Yep. You need to confess unto another. Yes. And I never grew up with any of that. And I never grew. That's why, in my opinion, that's why you see the rise of so much therapy going on and so much psychotherapy, like because the confessional aspect of Christianity has almost completely been abandoned, even by many Catholics. Like, you're not, you go into the confessional. Now, granted, when you go into the confessional, some priests are better about it than others, but like you go in there and you're like, man, I've been struggling with this sin. If they got time, if they're not like hurried before mass or whatever, they'll go, okay, well, tell me about what's going on. Like, what do you what's up? You already, you know what you're doing. Why do you keep doing that? I mean, it's because you're human, but like say it out loud so you know.
Yeah.
I don't really need to know.
Yeah.
I mean, but you need to know.
Yeah.
So say it,
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, so that's, it's a field hospital, man.
Yes. Well, what I totally agree with that. And that is why this cultural Christianity thing must die. It must get nailed to the ground and die because it's so hypocritical, because it doesn't address the burning need in the culture today, which is despair and devastation and walking around with hurts and broken dreams. And we thought we were going to make something of ourselves, and we keep falling short. And we have this drudge and this sin that we deal with, and then we go to church because that's what's socially advantageous to do. And
in the South,
in the South, but not just in the South, but probably particularly. You're right, and particularly in the South. And we smile and we shake hands and we do our thing and we leave and we pretend that everything's good, and we're just hurting and we're dying.
Yeah,
and it's not true Christianity. And there's no salvific power there.
No.
And it's just awful. And it's one of the worst things I think you could say about God, because you're using him to your advantage, but you're not committing. And you're just checking some boxes, and it's not going to help anyone. It's not going to save anyone. People shouldn't get involved with that. That must look awful from the outside, because we're pretending to have the answers. And yet we're not living like we actually do. We're not actually living like God is real and he had a son, Jesus Christ. And we're just not addressing the real needs of the world. We're pretending like things are okay when everything is on fire.
Everything's on fire.
And that's what
everything's always been on fire. The church was built, like tongues of fire came down at Pentecost.
Yes.
Like it was on fire.
Yes.
Okay. Like God, like in the Bible, it talks about like baptism by fire and like, water and fire. And it's like, things have always been bad. That's the thing. And cultural Christianity is going to die. It's already died. Look at Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Europe. Look at the birth rate in Europe. Just look at the birth rate anywhere. Like that, in my opinion, and that's getting into deeper waters, but like, that's an outward sign, in my opinion. If a civilization isn't healthy enough to replace itself, right? Then the civilization at its core doesn't think it's worth preserving, right? Like, and not to mention how atomized Americans are, but like even your old world European brethren, like, they don't care who their great grandpapa was. They don't care about that. They don't. There's no connection to the real, and that's one of the reasons at the end of the day too why I love Catholicism, because it's a very physical religion. You have the Eucharist, you have the confession where you have to, like, I can't call my priest and go confess on the phone. That's not a thing in Catholicism. You got to go.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, because they want you there.
Yeah,
they want you there.
You can't Zoom call it.
No,
it's for good reason.
Yeah, and it's like so. I love that it's physical, and it just brings me back into, into my body, and it's like, which is a weird thing to say, but we live in such weird Gnostic times where a large portion of humanity are now at least in the first world that believes that, if they were pressed on like who they were, like what are you? Most people go, well, I'm a human being. What is that? Well, I'm me, like my personality. I'm really into CrossFit, and I like to scroll through Barstool Sports on Instagram and watch Parks and Rec or what. What about your body?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I get most people just off the cuff don't really think like their body is part of like
Yeah.
who they are in a
Yes.
profound way.
Yeah.
And that's a very Christian thing. That's an extremely Christian understanding of the human person. And all this stuff's it's all a big intertwined thing where it's like, okay, well, if you're in error about who Jesus Christ is, right? If you have a Christological error, so much bad is going to flow from that Christological error. And that's why Jesus, I think, so Jesus talks about, he says in the Bible, and I'm reading through the Bible for the second time, but I'm not like one of these guys who's got the freaking Bible memorized. A great fulfillment of the stereotype of a Catholic here.
Well, me neither.
But in any case, he talks in the Bible about, Jesus says like, hey, there's going to be people who come to me and say, Lord, Lord, I cast demons out in your name. I did all these works of mercy in your name. And he's going to say, depart from me. I don't know you. Who are you? What? You didn't really love me. You did it for clout.
Yes.
You did it for clout or whatever.
Yep.
And in the same way too, when Jesus talks about how he's going to be hot or cold, but the lukewarm I'm going to spit out of my mouth. And that like be on fire for him or hate him.
Yes, I agree.
It's the trilemma.
Yeah.
You don't do this stuff where you're like, Jesus was cool. He was a good groovy dude. And I love him or whatever, but don't do that.
Yes.
I'd rather you not. He would probably rather you not pay lip service to him.
Yeah, I agree.
Why would he say that? Why else would he say
agree.
lukewarm?
Yeah.
He's going to spit you out of his mouth.
Yes.
Why would he say that?
Yeah, and that is absolutely one of the things I appreciate about the Christian faith too, is the value that it puts on the human body. Because wasn't it the Greek Gnostics that thought that we should basically rise above the body and material things is dirty and we should rise above?
There are plenty. That's like the general Gnostic view, and there are plenty of heresies about the body. Right? The most of them died out because they weren't reproducing. Most of them went, oh, the body's evil, so the material world's evil. I think like Manichaeism and some other heresies were. And forgive me, I can't remember all my heresies off the top of my head, but there are plenty of them where like the body is evil.
Yes.
And they were explicit about it. Like the body's material, the material world, they're Neoplatonic in a way. Like the body's evil, the natural world's obviously, it changes, it decomposes, things decay, there's atrophy. And so therefore, physical reality is no good. I mean, there's suffering, you're trapped, I'm trapped in this. And I'm good to go. I mean, I'm a 6'4" dude who's in relatively good health. I still like stub my toe and I get gout and broke my leg and dude, there's people who have lots of physical ailments and you go, well, I mean, I guess the physical world is evil. So, and there's some parallels to classical Buddhism too, with that, like cycling through and getting shuffling off the body coil and saying, all right, I've reached nirvana with my enlightenment. I don't have to reincarnate as a cow. I don't have to reincarnate as a human again. Like, and same with the Gnostics. It's like the body isn't really me. And you see this a lot in popular culture now. Like, I think there's much more sinister undercurrents of the culture that are Gnostic, that it's not like a cabal of Gnostics, but like people are Gnostic. But you see it come up in little ways. So like, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. Have you ever heard something like that kind of stuff?
Right.
Like
can't
that,
separate them.
And that's like, white girl, like Facebook bio philosophy.
Right.
But at the same time, like a lot of people kind of operate that way.
Yeah.
And like, what is it to have, like, your body isn't even like your body. It's not you really,
Yeah.
It's not a part of your nature.
Yeah.
It's just something that happened, was foisted upon you.
Exactly.
In fact, your whole being is just something that's been foisted upon you.
Yeah, it really is. But that cuts against the dignity of creation, And also, if that wasn't enough, like that alone would be enough if there is a God and he made us this way and then said that it was very good and he put us in this order and so that would be enough. But as if that wasn't enough, then Jesus comes down and is fully God and fully human. And so, if Jesus himself participated in the very human physical experience, so there's a dignity there.
That's why the demons hate us. That's one of the reasons they hate us, because angels are a higher order of being than humans are. They just hierarchically, they like the way that creation's set up, like they're pure intellect, right? They don't have any encumbrances. They don't die. They're almost omniscient. They don't have any physical faculties. And so in a way, like, and this is, I think there's some patristics to back me up on this. At least I've heard maybe something to the point, or maybe I don't remember where I got this, but like the demons, I mean, the fact that Jesus Christ, the Logos, the Son of God, a person in the Trinity, became man, right? That's radical, because humans are fallen. On face value, just looking at fallen humanity, the Gnostics kind of have a point. They're gross. We're gross.
Yeah.
Like Jesus didn't just come here and walk around like a Buddha, right? He came as he didn't come in the collective either. He didn't just come out of the ground and go, "Hey, everybody, I'm God." He chose a woman.
Yeah.
And he was born of a woman, with all that comes with that. And then moreover, when he came out, he's a baby. He's God. That's a baby who had to be taken care of by a human.
Yeah, he's probably breastfed.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Yes, dude. And the demons can't stand it. They're like, "Are you serious? You favor these nasty
Pigs.
pig people?"
Yeah.
Remember in The Matrix when the agent gets Morpheus? Have you ever seen The Matrix?
I've not.
Okay. I'm not like a big movie quoter, but I just rewatched The Matrix.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. And at the I won't spoil it, but later in the movie, Morpheus is captured by these agents. And the agent, Agent Smith, is like, Morpheus, like, and he takes his earbud off. He's like, "I hate it here." And he's like, he's practically an angel in the Matrix world. He's a program. Whereas the humans anyway. And he's like, "I hate it here. It stinks. It's like, the stench of you people is just, it's disgusting the way you guys writhe about and try to breed and survive, and it's disgusting." And I watched that and I was like, that's exactly what demons think about humans. That's why they hate us, because we're gross.
Makes a lot of sense.
And Jesus and God chose to come to us.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. I was thinking too about just this thing of, is there a God, and how do we live? Or if there's not, maybe the best thing is to go kill ourselves. So you tried the living for yourself, partying, debauchery, all of that, and to sort of shut out the pain and to make that pleasure somehow compensate for the pain of existence. But in your experience, that pain is not worth it. Like, that doesn't work. And so the other way to go about it then would be to try to live your life, which I think a lot of people do this, is don't believe in God, but are going to get up early and on time, and they're going to have a good job, and they're going to be working towards a better future for themselves and then their kids, and they're going to work out every day, and they're going to eat clean, and they're going to have this healthy lifestyle, and they're going to be focused on success and the next step and those types of things, and maybe not, and maybe being faithful to the spouse and trying to be a good to the partner, trying to be a good dad or mom to the kids, and basically living out what happens to be Christian values. So then the question is, all right, so you can have a more fulfilled and satisfied life that way, but you're doing that because you're living out these values, which kind of rewards or can bring a certain sense of satisfaction into your life. But who made it so? Like, if there's still not a God, like, who would say that's the right way and this is going to be the painful way? You know what I mean? And so it still must speak to some sort of structure, some sort of system or some sort of, wisdom that's out there that makes this a better way of living. Now you're lost, so you'd still have to deal with kind of that inward emptiness, which I think you would just kind of be battling against. But you would have probably less pain than if you're just living in total debauchery.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Lewis said it, or I think Lewis said it, that, Christianity, if you're looking for a groovy time, don't pick up the cross.
Mm-hmm.
This ain't it.
Yeah.
There's a reason why the medieval cathedrals look the way they do, right? It's not only do they imitate like a rampart, like a battle, like they're spiky and they're like, hey, we're here to fight. We're the church militant. We're here on earth and we're here to fight.
I never thought about that way.
But also they're severe in a way that brings you. They're grand and they're so complex. I love them, but they're grand. Like even the cathedral in Nashville or my parish in Germantown, Assumption. They're grand and beautiful, but they're also all pointing up, and they're like, "Hey, we don't have lazy boys in here,
right?
We got hard pews, and you kneel, and you need to mortify your flesh.
Yeah,
you need to remember who and what you are. You're not. I
never thought of it
you're
that
nothing,
way.
and you're everything in a way.
That's interesting. And I think that's also instructive for this generation now that's sort of like, yeah, we believe in God, don't really believe in the church.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do our thing. We'll have family church. Now, now we're getting a little practical, and so this is going to offend some people. But there's a loss there because that's not the way we're meant to be in community. And there's a loss when we think, you have that relationship with God, but you're going to kind of check out on a lot of other fronts.
Yeah.
So,
well, and it's the moralistic therapeutic deism that, what's his name, talks about, where God's there if you need him, but, otherwise he's not. And it doesn't really matter, and that's really, there's only a few that can be sustained. This kind of post-Christian, altruism that we're talking about, that can only really be sustained for a little bit before it goes down. I mean, it's happened many times throughout history where people are de-Christianized or get conquered and stuff. It hits the fan. I mean, like the dignity of the human person, right? Like all of these foundational Western like civilizational truths that we've come to understand because they're Christian concepts, right? Like, Ross Douthat on Bill Maher, he's like, it's like really the virgin birth. And he's like, dude, you believe in stuff that you can't see all the time. What are you talking like?
Right.
Like human rights. Why do you believe in human rights?
Yep.
What gives, and so that's why I think God gave me a grace of addiction in a way, because like I didn't have time or the tolerance to go, God's not real. And at the end of the day, there's no telos, there's no end for humanity. There's no order. There's no direction that humanity should be pointed in, and there's no ordered way of living that's really good. And so it kind of got back to you can read about some of this stuff in Socrates in Aristotle, where and forgive me, Dr. Smith, but like, some of his dialogues, he'd have people going, well, why shouldn't I just live to please myself? Why? And these are the ancient Greeks were talking about this. Why shouldn't I? Just because they believed in the gods, right? They had something transcendental that they believed in that endured, and they'd be like, well, why shouldn't I just believe in pleasure? Why isn't pleasure the highest good? And there are some very good arguments for saying pleasure actually is the highest good, but the highest pleasure you can have is the beatific vision, or being with God, or enduring in His will. Even though, and that's why you think of the Christian martyrs as being these kind of happy warriors that they get martyred, but they're still like Saint Lawrence. He's the patron saint of comedians. He was famous. Some historians call it legend, but I mean it's church history. It's anyway, the popular account of St. Lawrence is he was being martyred, and they put him on a gridiron, like a a big. I had to look that up. I mean, I know football gridiron, but like a literal gridiron, which is like a big just iron grill that you put over like a campsite fire, and they bind him and put him on this campsite fire, and he gets roasted. And his famous line is he turns to the people who are martyring. I think it was the Romans, and he goes, "Can you turn me over? I'm done on this side."
Oh my God!
Can you turn me over, please? My flesh is falling off.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've got better things. Can we get this over with? Right. I got better things to do.
Yeah.
And you're not really doing anything. It's just,
Yeah.
I'm about to get a new one of these.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I don't know. So, yes. Yeah. I don't know. I couldn't do it. I couldn't endure, as a functional human being, who wasn't getting arrested or, if I'd endured, I'd probably be dead. Because the wages of sin are death, either here, and some are given the grace to have immediate brutal consequences for their sin. And others are given, God gives sufficient grace to everybody. It's whether or not you're going to cooperate with it is the deal. That's the deal. But God drops little hints throughout your whole life. You could be a pagan in the middle of freaking Amazon. That's a different discussion, but and Paul talks about, even with the pagans, like the law is written on the heart. Mm-hmm. Like even the pagans know, really, they know the law of God. They might not know who Jesus Christ is, but they know, they have the natural law. Yep. And so God gives you these hints throughout your life. And it's up to you to respond. Yes. You go, okay. And if you don't respond, you could found a Fortune 500 company. Mm-hmm. You can be the CEO of the coolest technology company in the world, or whatever it is, and you can have 3 kids. They all go to Exeter. They've got their summer camps where they learn 15 languages, and they can whip up a mean creme brulee. Okay, that's great. All right, but the reality is, like, no one's getting out of this life alive.
Exactly.
And either you're gonna take up your cross and carry it, and it's going to transform your suffering, or you're not. And goodness won't flow from that if you don't. Yeah. Like, good things can happen, and pagans can do good things, right? But man, bad things can happen when you don't cooperate with God's grace. Mm-hmm. And it's not like because God's like, oh yeah, you don't love me, you're punished. It's not even that. It's like, no, dude, like, I'm trying to think of an analogy. Like, I don't have a carbon fiber bicycle, but if I did, I'm not going to take my carbon fiber road bike and go jump it, go take it down a snow slope and try to go down.
It's not designed.
It's not designed for that.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
And if I do that, it might crack and it might fail suddenly, but it might not. It might get me down the mountain. Yeah. I don't know. That's a really bad analogy.
No, it's actually a great analogy because that speaks to what we're constantly trying to do, which is make ourselves God. We think that if we can, we're the exception. We can do what we want, and we're going to be okay. Mm-hmm. It's making ourselves God. Mm-hmm. What do we do when we're stuck in this cultural Christianity, using Christianity and going to the church for a social advantage? We think it's about us. We're making ourselves God. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, and
it's idolatry.
But it is idolatry, and Jesus gives ample examples of how not to be lukewarm. Right. And the martyrs do too. They're in Acts of the Apostles and in early church history. Like they're showing you what to do and what not to do. And Jesus says it. Like he says, unless you pick up your cross and follow me, you can't be my disciple. Mm-hmm. And blessed are you when they revile you and they slander you and I can't remember the parable word for word, but blessed are you when they crap on you.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So if you're not getting crapped on at least a little bit, you might want to reevaluate.
Yeah, no, it's
Jesus.
Yeah, I agree.
Because Jesus got the ultimate. He got the ultimate crap on.
Yeah.
Okay. And he took it.
Yep. Yeah, you're totally right. Does the Catholic faith allow for or believe in a conversion experience?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So for you, was there kind of a point in time, like, all right, partying, and then you had this experience, you decided to take this faith seriously, and then you said, I think about 2 years later, you joined the church.
Yes.
Was there some point in time there where you would have had, like, I don't know, what you would think of as maybe like a salvation prayer, or like, I mean, there's different points of view on this, because I mean, we're praying that basically our kids just grow up and really never remember a day where they didn't love God.
Yeah, yeah.
On the other hand, God still needs to save them at some point. You know what I mean? They're not automatically Christian. So did the Catholics believe in like a conversion as well? And if so, kind of when would that happen for you? Kind of over this period of time, then I assume?
Well, so the word conversion, it just means to turn around.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that word means. And so, yeah, I mean, you've got to you've every day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like the way that the Catholic Church and the way that Catholics think of salvation is not just a one-time thing.
Yeah.
It's
so
God has saved
that.
me.
Yeah.
God will save me.
Yes.
And God is currently saving me.
Yes. Praise God.
Yeah, praise God. So all the time.
Yeah.
But as far as like a seminal come to Jesus moment, I mean, that's the whole, I mean, no pun intended, that's the whole crux of like of communion, of the Eucharistic celebration. Like if you don't believe, don't come here. Paul says, don't partake in this unworthily.
Yes.
You'll condemn yourself. Don't do that. Don't do that. So when you're coming to the table and you're partaking in the body and blood of our Lord, if you don't believe, don't come.
Yes.
If you don't have an interior disposition that's ongoing, every day you've got to wake up and make a decision. Like, am I going to follow Jesus or not? You can't, there's no resting on your laurels here.
Totally. Well, I think that's what's so dangerous about like the traditional altar call.
Yeah.
Particularly if you get into, say, a conference, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm necessarily saying you shouldn't do it or they're wrong, but boy, it can lead to some pretty bad assumptions quickly. If you've got, say, a conference and there's a large group, and then you've got these speakers and teachers or preachers or whatever, and then you're going to have an altar call, and then these people are coming down front and they're saying the certain words, or they're reciting a certain prayer, or and they're leaving feeling like, oh, man, I'm glad, I'm saved, and then they're kind of going back to their normal lives, and it just doesn't work out, and then there's going to be questions, and going to feel like a little bit like kind of let down, I think, because it's just not saying the right words at the right time. That's not Christianity.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, I've got a good friend who's a Protestant. He's a buddy of mine. His name's Gabriel Finocchio. I think that's how you say his last name. Super Italian dude. But he runs a thing called Theos University, free plug. And it's like an online theology thing. He's got a very active Instagram presence.
Oh yeah,
good active
Theos University.
Yeah, huh. And I was at the G.K. Chesterton Society conference. And he and I were arguing about, because the church is making, like the Catholic Church makes very heavy claims about salvation, like outside of the body of Christ. Unless there's an extraordinary means of grace, salvation's not possible.
Oh, okay.
Like there's outside of the and when Jesus talks, like Jesus says, like there's no way to the Father but by me. Mm-hmm. Well, the church believes themselves to be the body of Christ. We believe to be the body of Christ. And if you're not within the body of Christ, what's going to happen? So that's a much bigger discussion about what that actually means. And so when I was getting into this discussion with Gabriel, I was like, he's like, dude, well, so what are you telling me that if someone goes to a Billy Graham crusade, right, and like they've been cheating on their wife, and they go down to an altar call and they beg God for forgiveness. And then they go get in a car wreck. They're going to be damned because they're not Catholic. I go, no, dude, that's not how that works. Because baptism is a sacrament. Mm-hmm. Baptism actually has power, and the desire for baptism has power as well. The Catholic Church teaches that there's, I think, 3 kinds of baptism. So you have baptism by water, right? You have baptism by desire. So you desire baptism. And then you have baptism by blood. So the martyrs, say someone comes up to you with a gun in their hand and you're not being baptized. And they go, is Jesus Christ the Lord and Savior? Is Jesus Christ Lord? And you go, yeah. And then they shoot you because you said that. I mean, there's a great chance you're good to go.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like that's a witness.
Yeah.
You're witnessing to the truth of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And so we could have a much more protracted discussion about what that actually means. But, as far as like an altar call goes, like, okay, well, that's where the judge not lest you be judged really kicks in. Like, I'm not going around. It's not I believe in the Catholic faith. I believe it's the truth. I believe it's the one true church. I believe that, and the church believes that those who hold other doctrines outside of the faith that contradict the faith are in error. Okay, sure. As far as their salvation is concerned, I'm going to spread the Catholic faith where I can. Obviously, I think that's the most surefire way to get to heaven and to be salved, like to be saved, to have actual healing in your life, right here and now, and while you're carrying the cross. Like, this is the way. Yeah. Right. But at the same time, like, I'm not going to go picket someone's funeral and go, oh, you guys shouldn't be at this Methodist guy. He's this dead Methodist dude. It's a funeral. I mean, he's Methodist. Like, that's uncharitable. Yeah. And it's not helpful. Yes. Now, I'm not going to go into the ecumenical error of going, oh, well, it's all about kind of the same. We're all the same. And that was the big argument I had with Gabriel. He's like, dude, I mean, like, you go to an altar call and then he gets into a car wreck and dies and he's repented of his sin of his adultery. Like, you think he's going to, I'm like, dude, I can't speak on that, but like, it's good to repent. You need to repent. Okay. Because that gets you back in alignment. Yeah. Right. Because like another kind of, I don't know if it's controversial, but one of the views I have about hell is I kind of like there's an Eastern Orthodox view of hell that I like a lot. So the classical Western view is that hell's a place, you go to hell, it sucks forever. You're separated from God on your own free will. Christ is the ultimate judge, but really you put yourself there. And I really like this Eastern Orthodox understanding of hell as being, there's technically no place where God isn't, because God has to sustain everything, right? Whether it's spiritual, corporeal, or spiritual, God's present. Insofar as he's even sustaining its existence by thinking about it, because the minute he stops thinking about us, we're not even here. Like, I mean, it's Back to the Future out of the picture. You disappear from the picture type stuff. But so there's an Eastern view that when everyone kind of goes to the same place, quote unquote, which is another big protracted discussion about like, was hell a place? Is heaven a place? Like that. But God's love is, and I think John talks about the fire, like the purifying fire of God's love. Like, that's where Catholics get their purgation, their purgatory theology. Oh, I see. And so, you don't have to believe in purgatory to be a Catholic, but it's a popular piety, pious tradition. In any case, like this views that like God's love is literally scorching you because you're just like, I hate this. I don't want to be with God. I don't want to be here. Oh, this sucks. And I think The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis, he has kind of a similar view, like the damned, or I think they're the damned, but they like get on a bus and like they get out of their drizzly gray and like gross city, and they end up in this like field, this big verdant valley that's like like New Zealand kind of Lord of the Rings valley. And the grass is swishing, and they walk on the grass and it's like plunging into their feet and like torturing them, and like it sucks. Interesting. And like burnt, and like the sun's burning them and all. Right. And it's like you don't want to be there. Yeah. You would rather not be there. You're in jail. Like you're, and the angels maybe are tending to you, and they're tending to you is to actually torturing you, and it's like, and the classical view of the particular judgment when you die and you go to Jesus and he goes, all right, now let's review what's going on here. Like I'm covering you here, but also like, did you love me? And I don't know if there's a quantifying aspect to that, but like, he says like, he even says in there, like you come to me and say, Lord, Lord, I cast demons out in your name. And he's like, I don't even know you, dude. I mean, I don't know you. So that's a mystery. The
Yeah.
particular judgment's
Yep.
a mystery, but
Yep.
that notwithstanding, you get up there and whatever happens afterwards, it's, say it's not good. I like to think that it's kind of like the curtain falls and like the heavenly host is there and you're like, what? No, dude. Like, oh my, you let this guy in here? This
Yeah.
guy sucks. Everyone thought he sucked.
Yeah.
Like he sucked. You let this guy in here? Like, no way. I don't want to be in here. I mean, like Biggie Smalls talks about in his raps, like I'd rather go to hell. Like, the I think the damned kind of choose it,
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, that was a huge tangent.
Well, no, I think the thing with hell is interesting, because there's different thoughts around that. This is one of those things we're just never going to be able to prove, I don't think, for right now. But what we do know is that you are not going to be in right relationship with God. So whatever that is, that's going to be awful.
Yeah.
So
forever.
Forever. We don't want that. Going back to college, you had that experience, then you were dating your wife, you joined the church. Now, did your wife kind of leave the Pentecostal faith and join the Catholic as well? Or
she's
kind of have different thoughts,
no pun intended, she's in limbo right now.
Okay.
So she hasn't been confirmed or baptized in the Catholic Church.
Okay.
But we're effectively raising our kids Catholic.
Okay.
And my wife, my wife is a real fireball, and that's why I married her, because she's at times can be more Catholic than me. Like,
oh yeah,
like defending tenets of the faith, defending morality, moral moral teaching, social teaching, things like that. So, I mean, it's interesting. It's very like I love the Pentecostal tradition in the same way that Flannery O'Connor loves the Pentecostal tradition in a way. Like I think, and forgive me, I love my Pentecostal family, but ultimately I would say that there are some errors in their theology. Mm-hmm. However, like they're great people. Mm-hmm. They believe in Jesus Christ. They also believe that spiritual realities are real. And I'm speaking their language. And we're speaking each other's language at the end of the day. So it's, it's like our worship styles are very different, obviously. Like Pentecostals get pretty rowdy. I love rock and roll and like punk rock and metal and all that kind of, I love music. And that's where it came from. I mean, rock and roll came from Pentecostalism. Like,
really?
Oh yeah, dude. Like Jerry Lee Lewis, Elvis, all that stuff. They're all Pentecostals.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. And so, it's like, yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
But like, also I'm like, but wait, there's theological differences or whatever. Sure. And so that, that there are conflicts with my wife and I about theology sometimes, but I don't know. It's like, I'm trusting God's grace and in his providence, and Rebecca is awesome. And like, I'd love nothing more for her to go get confirmed, which I frankly don't think is like outside the realm of possibilities right now.
Is that sort of like when she would be a member of the church, or what is confirming?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's confirming. So you asked a question about like, is there like a moment, like a salvation prayer or whatever, like a initiation? Confirmation would be that kind of moment, if you would, where you make a public proclamation of faith. Okay. And you formally submit to Jesus. You formally submit to the authority of the church. Mm-hmm. And you make a public profession.
Okay. Do you get baptized?
You get so baptism happens. Can happen at any point in your life.
Yeah. Okay.
We do believe in infant baptism, and so it's preferred that you go ahead and get that grace conferred upon you as a baby, so that you're not just struggling throughout your childhood. I mean, but. And that's another protracted discussion about infant baptism. I mean, I think there's good patristic. The church fathers speak extensively about it.
It is a different discussion, and it's also the most common. It's the most common tradition over the history of the Christian church.
Yeah, baptizing children. I mean, scripturally, maybe the tax collector came and repented, and he and his whole entire household was baptized. And like, I mean, we can get into a long thing about it. I mean, I think it's important to get your children baptized when they're infants. Yes. I don't think, like, if I had a friend who was like, I'm not getting my baby baptized, I'd be like, oh, dude, man. I mean, can you get him baptized, maybe? Let's just do that. But I wouldn't lose like sleep over it.
Sure.
I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, I'd be like, okay, well, everyone is fallen and everyone has that original stain, and like to get on board to get on board with God, with the Logos, you've got to undergo this sacrament and be transformed and let the grace of God through the Holy Spirit come through you. But God also, he's very merciful, and he's, there's a lot of, I don't know. I'm not going to say there's wiggle room I'm not going to cause scandal, but there's not really wiggle room with baptizing your children. Get your children baptized, but, I'm not going to like I said, I'm not going to lose sleep with my.
But that's not necessarily the confirmation.
No.
Okay.
So confirmation is a different sacrament. And it happens later on.
Yep. So let's just take one of your kids, for example, if they were baptized as an infant in the Catholic Church and then later they get confirmed.
Yes.
Is there a common age, let's just say, for kids
age
that are
of
raised?
reason, 9.
8 to 12? Okay. So 8 to 12-ish or whatever, 9, whatever.
When a lot of Baptists get baptized, like when a lot of Protestants
That's what it sounds
baptized,
like. And then, so then they're being confirmed. And I'm just curious, is that part of like a normal service, or is there a special service where like a dozen of these kids are being confirmed?
It's generally a special service, though confirmation can happen whenever.
Okay. And is it common that one kid is being, or person, because it wouldn't necessarily be a kid, right? Like if I would say get converted to Catholicism then be confirmed, that's okay, I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah.
And
please, come on.
Come on. So I might be confirmed as a 35-year-old and there might be a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
Okay. So And then what is the sort of like, I've never actually been in a Catholic church.
Okay.
So I'd actually love to attend a service sometime. Sounds like we need to visit you sometime if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
But is it like just a couple of minute thing, or like what happens at this confirmation?
Well, I haven't been to a confirmation in a while. No, yeah, it's a public thing. And so like when I was confirmed, I'll just go off my own confirmation. So I was baptized, and not in the Catholic Church, but as a baby, and I had my certificate from this church given to the Catholic Church in which I was confirmed. So the pastor wrote a letter in good faith to the priest and said, hey, yeah, we did baptize this guy when he was 8 months old.
That was a Presbyterian baptism.
Yeah.
And that counts, if you will?
Yes. So baptism is baptism is the most flexible sacrament. Anybody can baptize anybody.
Okay.
You don't even have to be a Christian to baptize somebody. But if I'm at war, right, and I'm an unbaptized person, and I'm dying by a lake, and my atheist companion, fellow soldier, is with me, and I'm dying, I'm like, dude, can you baptize me? All you have to say is, Whit, I baptize you in the name of the Father, in the name of and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and pour water on me 3 times. Can you do that for me? They can do that, and it's valid.
Okay.
So anybody can baptize anybody. And so confirmation, basically, with confirmation, I was baptized. So when I came to the church, I went through what's called RCIA, which is the Rite of Christian Initiation for Adults, which is basically a new term for what catechesis is, which is learning the faith before you join the church. So you got to know some tenets. You got to know what you're doing. Outside of like an emergency situation, you kind of got to know what you're getting into, right? Yeah. So like, on Pentecost, Paul baptized like 3,000, or was it 6,000? I believe he baptized. That's in Acts. We don't go out and just, Catholics as a general rule aren't going out and just like you're not getting the baptism pool dunking session like you would get at a non-denom here in Nashville.
Gotcha.
Like that doesn't happen because we don't see baptism as just kind of like, all right, you're good to go, man. Yeah. Let's roll. Baptism is a part of the spectrum of sacraments, as I guess I'll call it. So like you get baptized and then you're actively entering into the life of the church. You're actively entering into the life of the church, and you're receiving confirmation, which is a public profession of your faith. Like saying, do you renounce Satan and all of his evil, empty promises and his evil works? Yes. Do you believe in the Holy Catholic? Do you believe in Jesus Christ our Lord? You basically say the creed. I believe it's the Nicene Creed. You're basically saying the creed in a way and affirming that you believe this stuff. Then you're anointed with these oils by the priest, at which point the Holy Spirit comes upon you and rests upon you. It's like the baptism is the same thing. The Holy Spirit, there's an indwelling. It comes upon you.
Yeah.
And it indwells with you. And with confirmation, it's the same thing. You're like, hey, look, I profess it, and now I'm part of this thing. I'm ready to roll. Let's roll.
Okay.
And I believe this stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Services. I've never been to a mass. And is every Catholic service called mass?
Yes.
Okay. And sometimes some have mass on Saturdays and some Sundays, or some both. It's almost like multiple services.
Mass happens every day.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Not in every church, not in every parish.
Oh, okay.
But yes.
Okay, so let's take your parish, for example. It was Germantown.
Up in North Nashville.
What was the name of it?
Church of the Assumption.
Church of the Assumption in Germantown. How often do you have mass there?
Father Price has mass at that church, I believe, every weekday. They might not do it on Fridays. I know they do it on Saturday mornings. Things have changed at that church because it got hit by a tornado in early March, and also at our church and the COVID.
Right.
So it used to be 6 p.m. mass every day, every weekday, and then on Sundays there's a mass at 7:30 in the morning, 8:30 in the morning, and then like 11.
Okay. And which one did you guys most commonly go to?
We go to the Latin Mass, which was at 8.
Okay.
But they've changed the times because our main chapel is out of service because it's been hit by a tornado. I mean, so they're having to hold mass in like the parish hall and then like this kind of old ballroom looking play. I don't know.
It's an hour-long service?
It's roughly an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is kind of the agenda, if you will, or what is the order of service?
Sure. The order of service, man. Well, okay. So let me think. It's best to experience it, but I can help.
I'd love to.
I can try to explain it, and it's old. Like the liturgies are really old.
Okay.
And they've not been messed with for a long time.
Okay.
Well, that's a huge discussion, but the Latin Rite, in the Latin Rite, which is the Roman Catholic Rite, in that branch of the Catholic Church, the services generally they're basically all the same all over the world. Because of Vatican II, which was a council that was held in the 60s, which can open a can of, if you were versed in Catholic history, would maybe open a can of worms. That would be a point
of contention, maybe?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. The services, the masses are now done in the vernacular, but they generally follow the same order. And so basically the mass is broken up into 3 parts. So you have the Old Testament readings, you have the New Testament readings, you have with the gospel reading of the day, you have the homily, which is the sermon, and then you have the liturgy of the Eucharist, which is the mystical transubstantiation rather, of the bread and wine into the body and blood of our Lord. And it happens at every Mass.
I see.
And that's the crux. That's really the crux of the Mass. The readings are great, and the sermon's awesome.
Everything sort of funnels down to there in the service. That's the summit. The church calls that the Eucharist and the Mass the summit and source of the Christian life. So, you read that, we can get into a big can of worms about the Eucharist, right? Mm-hmm. I would encourage all listeners to go look up Eucharist Church Fathers on Google, okay, and just do some light reading with Justin Martyr and some of these other early church fathers, Saint Ignatius and all those guys, heavy hitters. But yeah, so the service is about an hour long, and at every single Mass it follows roughly the same order. So you walk in with some singing. The priest and the deacon and the subdeacon and the lector and whatever, they process in. And are you seated at this point?
No, you're standing singing.
Okay.
And so they'll come in, finish the song, and then the priest will open it up with the sign of the cross in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, which is literally like, in the South we say bless your heart, right? You're literally blessing yourself when you do the sign. Demons hate the sign of the cross. They hate the cross. They hate seeing one. They hate it when you make the motion. They hate it when you do a T-pose. They hate the cross. So making the sign of the cross is a good thing to do for yourself.
Yeah.
If you ever wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, ooh, what was that noise? Or I feel weird, or you got some demonic oppression happening, make the sign of the cross. They hate it.
Interesting.
They flee. They don't like that.
Yep.
So, it opens it with the sign of the cross, and then, the rough outline of the Mass is the Old Testament readings are done, and it's all on a liturgical calendar. So the readings are predetermined by the church. And so you'll have the Old Testament reading of the day, and then you'll have generally you'll have a New Testament reading that's not the gospel, right? So like not Jesus' words. It'll be like Paul talking, a letter to the Corinthians or whatever. That'll be the second reading. Then the third reading is something Jesus has said out of the Bible. And then the sermon comes after that.
Okay.
And the priest will get up and go, all right, guys. Well, that was an interesting series of readings. Here we see in the Old Testament a prefiguring of Jesus through, the ram caught in the bush, and Isaac was spared, Jacob, and it's like, okay, well, then he'll make all these inferences if he's a good homilist and he has a good sermon. And then also there's other things you can draw on with the sermon. So like we also have a calendar of the saints. So the day that the saints were martyred, we celebrate their lives and we ask them to pray for us. We think they're in heaven. We go, hey, can you help me out here? And like maybe shoot a prayer over here. Like, and that might scandalize some people. And it scandalized me at first. I'm like, what do you mean you're asking saints to pray for you? Like, wow, you just need to go to God.
Right.
Why are you messing around? Dude, if anyone to anyone who says that, why are you asking other people to pray for you?
I was just going to say, it's kind of a double standard.
Don't ask yourself. Don't ask people to pray for you.
Yeah.
And let's be real too. Like a lot of Protestants, like when their mom dies, they're secretly like, Mom, hey, can you look out for me down here?
Yeah.
Can you throw one in there for me?
Yeah.
You're right up there. Like you're right next to the guy.
Yeah.
Can you help me out? And so, they'll preach about a life of a saint. Or if something huge is happening in the world, they'll like the Mass on Monday. I went to Mass on Monday.
In person?
Yeah. First Mass I've been to in 60 days.
Oh, wow.
So the social distancing and all that.
Okay.
And it's like, all right, well, and so the sermon was like, okay, the coronavirus is here and Jesus is Lord and we need to figure out how we're going to do this.
Okay.
Because this is kind of unprecedented. We didn't even shut down the churches during the Black Plague. So we're not really knowing what we're doing here.
Wow.
Yeah. So
the Catholic Church did not shut down the churches during the Black Plague.
Some did, but like, they didn't know what germ theory was.
That's a good point.
They thought everything was demons, which, that's a bigger discussion. But like, they didn't know what a virus was. I mean, if you look at a virus and you give the dictionary definition of a virus, it does seem like a demon. It's like lifeless. It like messes with your RNA and replicates unstoppably.
Has different effects on different people.
Yeah. Anyway,
how long is the homily normally? 20 minutes, 15?
Yeah.
Okay,
but
varies.
It's not, and because Mass is every day. There's no need to get the 3-hour homily in, the 2-hour, Stephen Furtick walking around, that kind of long thing.
Right.
There's no need for that. Because you can break it up.
Sure.
Like if you were here yesterday, we talked about the 4 cardinal virtues and we're going to talk about the, faith, hope, and love now. And it's like,
okay.
And today we're going to talk about faith.
Yeah. Okay. So do they have a different homily for every day?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But do any churches have multiple services in one day?
Absolutely. So our church has 3 masses every Sunday.
Okay. And in that case, are they having the same homily for all 3 of those?
I would
masses?
hope not. Although, I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, he might switch it up.
Yeah.
He might.
What is the common dress for your...
So for I go to a pretty conservative, very traditional church. And so, slacks and a button down, kind of,
Not suit and tie?
If you want to wear a suit and tie, you can. Many of the men do.
Okay.
It is just, it is just the celebration of the body and blood of our Lord after all,
Yeah.
But, it's funny because the church is it's so interesting. One of the sticking points growing up, because I grew up in a very like wealthy Presbyterian church, and I was like, oh man, all these people are just dressed up, and you read the Bible, and you're like, who? These people were like these crazy desert Jews that like like they didn't have nice stuff.
Yeah,
they were from like ratchet little towns in the Middle East, like and one of the big common refrains is like, well, why doesn't the Vatican sell St. Peter's Basilica and give it to the poor, and you're like, okay, that sounds like Judas when he's like, why are you wasting all this perfume on our Lord? We could sell it for money, It's like, okay, well, yeah, you could, but as Jesus says, the poor will always be with you.
Yeah.
So I'm saying all that to say, I grew up in this very wealthy church, which I don't know, I'm not here to like bash my church growing up, but with the Catholic Church, there's a very, very broad. I mean, it's the biggest church in the world. There's like 1.6 billion members in the Catholic Church. I mean, dude, everyone talks about diversity and inclusivity. I mean, it's automatic in these churches. Like I know, like back in the 20s and in the 1800s, you had like the Polish church and the Irish church, and up in like Philly, they'd be next to each other. And like if you're Irish, you go to that church, and you don't want to go to the Polish church, or whatever. But if you really need to go to the Polish church, you can go to the Polish church. If you're Irish, say your priest is sick, and you got to go to confession. They might not.
Oh, I see.
People, they're represented from all over the world.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, like some of the priests here are from Africa, and like
Wow.
Like you go to, I mean, our church, it's pretty diverse. You see all walks, all classes. Like, it's very interesting. And so, people dress up for service. In fact, I got knocked. I went to Mass. We did our rogation procession, which is like an ancient kind of ritual we do where we process around the boundaries of the parish. So parishes are bound by geography. This is I'm diving in deep, but parishes are bound by geography. A diocese is a collection of parishes under a bishop. So the bishop of Nashville covers all of Middle Tennessee.
Okay.
So there's like 100 churches under this bishop, right? And the priests there carry out the business of the parishes and do the day to day. But they're all. Are you familiar with like how real estate brokerage office works? Okay, so like you got your principal broker, right? I do real estate, so I
didn't know that.
Yeah, so you got your principal broker and you got your affiliate brokers. The affiliate broker's under the principal broker, and like technically he's doing business on behalf of the principal broker.
Yes,
like by law, he's like literally just doing the principal broker's actually doing it.
Yeah.
It's like that, like the buck stops with the principal broker. Yeah. It's the same way with the bishops and the priests.
Oh, I see. Interesting.
So like,
that helps.
So like the bishop, he's the shepherd of the flock, and the priests are also shepherds of their little flocks. But like ultimately the priests answer to the bishop, and ultimately the bishop answers to the Bishop of Rome, which is the Pope. But
what's more water?
Sure. So I mean you wear a suit if you want to, but it's respectful. But like at the same time, you might have like a homeless dude in there, or you might have someone who doesn't have fancy clothes, and no one's like, oh well. They didn't wear their suit today.
Right.
And like at the end of the day, no one's like, oh, well, unless you're wearing something indecent.
Yeah,
people aren't like, oh, my goodness, you have rips in your jeans. Or like, wow, nice Walmart shoes or something.
Sure,
it's not like that.
So it's the same as the church environment that I'd be used to.
It
sounds very much the same.
Yeah.
This is turning a corner a little bit, but the alcoholism, I'm curious, was that born out of, did you have a pain you were trying to subdue, or you just liked to party and it just got out of hand?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been a very addictive person.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, I've always just been 100% whatever I'm doing. Pretty much. No. And I mean, as a boy, I can remember, playing video games, and like my mom would come in and go, "You've been on this for like 9 hours.
Yeah.
What are you doing?" And I'd rage. I'd be like, "Well, get out of here.
Yeah.
What are you doing? I'm getting my dopamine. What do you mean? I don't need to mortify my flesh. Like, get away from me. Like, I want my Mountain Dew, and I didn't really. I mean, I want my sweet drinks and to play video games all night. I mean, that's just an example.
Yeah.
And so I think honestly, I was born this way. Not to get all Lady Gaga on everybody, but like I literally I think there was something inherent going on with just the way my soul is. I mean,
you still have an addictive and depressive personality?
I wouldn't say I have a depressive personality, but I still definitely do have there's still things that I
do too, for sure.
It's just like there's no, moderation is a virtue. Temperance is a virtue.
Yeah.
Right. But like in some aspects of my life, like that's broken. And so that's why I don't drink.
Okay.
And that's why I don't go do drugs. I can't like go, eat an edible every once a year at Thanksgiving. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like some people, it's not, that's not how I roll.
You don't, because if you did, you'd be just doing that all the
in,
time.
Man. I mean, like with the cigs, like all in.
How long were you smoking?
Oh, I don't know. Since I was
forever?
17. Yeah.
And how did you quit then?
I literally told my wife, I'm like, all right, I'm going to stop. I've stopped before.
Oh, okay.
I've quit. I just do a cold turkey. There's no other way to, anyone out there, there's no other way to do it. I'm sorry. The vaping, that's a trap. You're just going to start vaping all the time. The nicotine patches, I've never done the nicotine patches. They might work for you. I don't know, but like drink a lot of water. Okay. So you smoke your last cig when you go to bed or whatever.
Okay.
Your nicotine. Then your body detoxes while you're sleeping. And when you wake up, you don't smoke. You just go drink a lot of water and then go for a walk and just go, you know what? I'm not going to smoke. Like, I don't want to smoke. You really have to have an internal motivation. You have to have some end in mind. And mine was not getting coroned. Okay. And the other was like, I'm 34 years old and, I got 3 kids and a wife and like, I've got a pretty good life and nicotine's all well and good. It hypes me up and gets me focused or whatever, and makes me skinny. But like, I don't really want to, I'm done. I've been doing this. I get grumpy if I don't have it. I can snap real easily.
Okay.
It's just, like I said earlier, it's another thing I can just streamline out of my life.
So were the first 3 or 4 days you were coming off, was that really hard?
Yeah, it sucks.
Okay.
Yeah, bad.
Do you have, do you get sweaty or shaky or sick or
super angry?
Just, irritable or just uptight?
Yeah, absolutely. Super irritable. Like day 3, it's like really hungry.
Oh,
yeah, because the way nicotine works is that it blocks, like it increases your metabolism and lowers your appetite. Like, you look in the, I was watching, my wife was watching, what's that? Heavyweights. Have you ever seen that movie Heavyweights?
No.
From Disney?
Just Heavyweights?
Yeah. It's about like these kids who go to fat camp. It's like a kid's comedy.
Okay.
She was watching the other day and I was watching, and it's from like the mid-90s.
Watch it.
Yeah. Have you seen that movie? You've seen Heavyweights? Okay.
Oh, you've seen it, Lincoln?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Dude, they're not that fat in that movie. Like, compared to people now.
Oh,
you watch it and you're like, these were the kids who had to go to fat camp?
Yeah.
And you like look at the 70s, like you look at pictures from the 70s and like everyone's grandma and they're like all super thin and like tan and stuff. They've been out gardening or whatever. They've been just chiefing cigs.
Wow.
That's why, everyone used to smoke cigs and they were all like super skinny because they just didn't have to eat. I mean, like if I was like a subsistence farmer, I'd definitely be chewing tobacco because you don't have to eat lunch.
Yeah.
You just throw in a dip and you're good to go. Like rotate your crops or like do whatever.
Because it just does. You just don't have that appetite. That's interesting. I switched to the meat diet, carnivore diet, about a month ago.
Yeah, how's that going?
It's going very well. I feel very good on it. I cheat about 1 meal a week now. I've probably been doing it for longer than a month.
Meat
probably
only?
Yeah. So it's meat and cheese is okay. Oh, eggs. So meat and eggs, and then some people include cheese, and I definitely do.
Yeah.
So yeah, meat, eggs, and cheese, and that's it. And I cheat about 1 meal or 1 day a week, and where I was going with that was it was probably about on the 2nd week, and I just had a craving for snack food, like almost had to be physically restrained. I just wanted to eat some dessert or some cake or some pretzels and chips and stuff like that. And I just it was bad that night, and fortunately pushed through it, and then it kind of went away.
Yeah.
But you had to fight through it because it was there to get you.
Dude, I was praying the rosary. I had my rosary out. I was oh yeah, dude.
What is that?
Oh, it's a rosary.
What's a rosary?
Here, I'll show you.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, man. It's beads
beautiful.
that help
It's very
guide.
pretty.
Yeah. So my buddy Jim, my buddy Jim gave me this one, and it's a replica rosary of an army. It's a replica army issue. It's a replica of an army issue rosary from World War One.
Oh yeah. What's this say at the top here? Jesus of Nazareth.
Yeah, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews.
Oh, okay. This is replica of a World War One.
Yeah, of a World War One army issue rosary.
Now, do you wear that, or
No.
do you? Okay.
So when this we can go into the rosary, but so basically, in pious tradition, Saint Dominic, who founded the Dominican order, that's the order of nuns that teaches at Aquinas College. They're the ones who helped convert me to the faith. Saint Dominic, according to pious tradition, Mary appeared to him, and because he was like, "Look, I'm trying to figure out a way for these people who can't read and write to pray the Psalms, because they all, like, the monks would pray the Psalms, and like they would just as they're praying, they'd recite the Psalms, all of them, 150 Psalms. And according to pious tradition, Mary appeared to him and goes, "Hey, here you go, use this thing." And in lieu of praying the Psalms, you can meditate on these different mysteries of my son's life, and you can say the Hail Marys. You can just say Hail Mary for each one, and meditate. While you're doing that, you're meditating on different aspects of my son's life.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so it's a prayer. It takes about 25 minutes to do.
Praying the rosary takes about 25 minutes to do?
And it's just I love it. It's a good practice.
Yeah. Interesting. And are you praying it out of that book there?
Well, this is a booklet that I bought out of, I bought it from a place in Portland, Oregon. They shipped it to me. But yeah, there's 4 mysteries.
I see.
So there's joyful mystery, luminous, sorrowful, and glorious. And so let's see, with like and you're meditating on these mysteries the whole time. So like the Annunciation. It's like, I'll read this and I'll go the first joyful mystery, and then I'll say in Our Father. And then number 1, the time for the incarnation is at hand. And then I'll meditate on that and pray a Hail Mary, which is, "Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen." And so you're asking Mary to help to intercede.
I see. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, Jesus loves his mom. Okay.
Yeah.
And whenever I get into, people are like, "Tell me about Mary, man. What's with Mary with Catholics?" I'm like, "What's with Mary?
Yeah.
You tell me."
Okay.
Well, I mean, you guys like pray to her and ask her for help. Yeah. Jesus, we growing up, I viewed Mary as like a surrogate mom who the father was like, "All right, you're an obedient peasant.
Yeah.
You're a pious, obedient peasant, and I'm going to impregnate you.
Yep.
You're 13. It's kind of weird, but, or whatever.
Yep.
All right. And she's like, "Okay, sure. Well, an angel's here. I guess I'll do it." And then, boop, Jesus comes out. Jesus has Mary's DNA. Right. Mary, ultimately, the final cause of Jesus' body and his incarnation is the Father, is God. But Mary said yes, and then efficiently gave him his body. Like, he grew in her body. She ate naan and hummus and whatever they ate, lamb and goat and stuff, and fed through the umbilical cord. Yeah, Jesus. Like, he has her DNA. That's wild. Yeah. And moreover, Jesus is perfectly obedient to his mother and his father, both his earthly father, Saint Joseph, and his Father in heaven. He was perfectly obedient to Mary. He was perfect. Jesus is perfect. That's a commandment. Honor your mother and father. He perfectly honored Mary. Mary kicked off his ministry at the wedding. She goes, "Hey, they're out of wine." And he goes, "Woman, my time has not yet come." And And then the wait staff comes and he says, "Do whatever he tells you." And that's the last time she talks in the Gospels. That's the last time she talks in the Bible. Do whatever he tells you. Okay? So if you go and you ask the mother of God, the mother of Jesus Christ, Go, hey, can you help me out here with your son?
Yeah.
What's he going to do? Because Mary, at the end of the day, like, and that opens up another can of worms with the Immaculate Conception, but like, could Mary have told Jesus to do something evil? You know, could she have told God to do something that's out of line with both the divine and the natural law? I don't think that's possible. I mean, I don't think that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, Mary's a very powerful person. She's a very powerful intercessor. God, like I said earlier, Jesus Christ could have come into the world in the collective. He could have literally appeared out of the dirt as a human, as a grown man, and gone, hey guys. And that's what the Jews wanted. The Jews wanted the descent from the cloud. That's why the Pharisees were so pissed.
Yep.
Because they wanted the descent from the cloud, the Caesar to get kicked out, everything to be pushed over, the temples, the Roman temples to collapse, their oppressors to be crushed under his heel. And yet he was born in like a cave, like a freaking donkey cave in the Middle East, in like what they say. What I think it was one of the disciples goes, Nazareth, Galilee, what good can come from Nazareth? Right. What he said, was it Nazareth? What good can come from there?
Yeah,
like in like a ratchet part of town.
Yeah,
like this wasn't like at the synagogue school where like this was in a cave with unlearned
it wasn't
peasant people. No, it was unlearned peasant people.
Yeah,
and so she's super powerful, and like. It's a good idea if you're going to ask your dead relatives who you think are in heaven to help you out, why not ask the heavenly host of good and holy people to go, hey, can you like put one in Jesus's ear for me?
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
I mean, literally like the first wet thing that Jesus is the same now and then, now, and forever, right? But also he listens to people. He's moved by people.
Interesting. Yeah, I really understand that a lot better than I actually ever have.
So it's a pious tradition in the Catholic Church. It's done me a lot of good. And for purposes of quitting cigarettes or other vices, dude, yes, like cigs, bam, I'm off cigs for the past 40 days. I haven't looked at indecent things on the internet, if you will. I'm trying to keep it PG here. In like 4 years.
Yeah, oh, good. Yeah.
I mean, like, other vices of the flesh, boom, gone.
What about depression? You still struggle with that? Do you do things for that? Have you ever kind of had a corrective input or something that really helped that? Or
yeah, I mean, I used to have really bad depression before my conversion. It's gotten a lot better, but sometimes I'll slip into spiritual sloth, what's classically called acedia. It's just like the sin of spiritual sloth, where I'm just like, and I guess I'll pray today. I guess I'll pray the rosary. I think, I don't know, man. Like, and it's really just taking your eye off the ball. Yeah, and that's a natural thing because of our fallen nature, but that can also be exacerbated by demons. They can go, oh yeah. Dude, just listen to that podcast. Yeah. You don't need to pray right now. Yeah. You can get that, you got to bust, you're really OCD with getting all your podcasts listened to. So you need to, you've missed last week's. Yep. Dude, that's kind of disrespectful to the podcast guy. You don't even know that you would really like and want to listen to. You need to listen to that instead of saying a prayer. Yeah. Just stay up a little bit longer on Instagram, man. Just, it's cool. Don't go to bed and get 8 hours of sleep. Just get 4 and drag ass all day and so that happens. Bouts of acedia happen. Okay, but it pales in comparison to the depressive episodes that I would have. I see. Back in my active addiction and pre-conversion. I mean, absolutely pale, dude. Like that's the grand irony. Sometimes you'll meet Catholics, or I'm a recovering Catholic. Like I'm. And you're like, okay, dude, I don't know about y'all, but the church and the power of the Holy Spirit through our Lord Jesus Christ is incredible and has literally transformed my life. I'm not a perfect person by any means. Like, no, I mean, my wife, like I said, my wife would be here laughing like, dude, you gotta get some, you still have issues with anger, or you're uncharitable to me, or what. I'm a human.
Yep.
I could still be a jerk.
Right.
So but yeah, man, the depression prayer, pray on that, because at the end of the day, the enemy wants us dead.
Yep.
And whether they want us, they can either want to, if God has designed us in a way, and I believe God gives us different gifts, right? Like, there's a reason why I'm not getting the Fields Medal in mathematics. Okay. God didn't give me that kind of brain. Okay. I don't have a math brain. I have a talk brain. I can talk. And there's a reason why someone's short and someone's tall. And there's different attributes people get. We're all equal in our dignity, but we're not equal in the gifts we've been given.
Right.
And, what was I going with that? I guess what I was going to say is, like, yeah, with depression, I just pray. I just pray it through.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with the equal gifts.
You were talking about depression, and I feel too like you were going somewhere. We'll come back to it.
Yeah, sorry.
This is turning a corner again, but
okay.
Go ahead.
No, it's like, so God's trying to kill you. Excuse me. Demons are trying to kill you. God is not trying to kill you. God wants you to live.
You'd be dead.
You'd be dead. Yeah. If God was trying to kill you, all you have to do is, like, not think about you for 1 millisecond, and then you would cease to exist forever. Like, okay, God is trying to give you life. Mm-hmm. The demons want you dead, and they're going to exploit any crack and crevice that they can to take your eye off the ball.
Right.
And so God has given me an incredibly hyper-focused brain that to the detriment of other things. So, like, I was diagnosed with ADD when I was young. It wasn't ADD. I'm reading the eyewitness books cover to cover instead of doing my homework. And when I almost pee my pants, I forget to go pee. I got to pee. I got to get up and go pee. I'm reading these books or whatever. I'm staring outside for 10 minutes, just thinking about something. Like, it's not, G.K. Chesterton says it's not so much, I'm not absent-minded. It's the presence of mind that keeps me, late for appointments. And
interesting.
So, but yeah, acedia is what I struggle with now. Mm-hmm. And, demons really do try to exploit that and go, hey, or you're worthless, or you're not going to make a mark that's going to last for forever.
Right.
You're not the golden disc on the side of the Voyager satellite that's plunging through space that some alien's going to get. You're not going to become the next Attila the Hun that everyone's going to remember or whatever. It's these little nitpicking things.
Yeah,
that
totally.
Get you derailed.
No,
get your eye off the ball.
It's very much the same for me. You have a house for recovery, I believe.
Yes.
I don't know much about this. Mm-hmm. What is this? What are you doing?
Sure. So I co-own a company called Fairview Homes, and it's a sober living company for men. So
sober living company.
Yeah. So say, like, when I had my spiritual crisis, and I was like, Dad, I don't want to live anymore. And he goes, we need to go see somebody. So we went to go see a psychiatrist. And he's like, well, do you want to go somewhere? And so I was like, sure, I don't know. And so I went to rehab. What we provide at our company is, so say it's very different from when I went 12 years ago. But, like, if I were to go back, or say, somebody now who's gone to, like, Cumberland Heights, which is a reputable treatment center here in town, they'd go in, they'd be assessed, and go through their treatment program for 30 days. And then when they get out, after 30 days of inpatient treatment, their counselor and their case manager is going to go, okay, look, you've spent the last X amount of time doing drugs and alcohol and drinking and living degenerately for, however long. You don't know how to live on your own. And we believe that you need to go live with a bunch of other people who are on the same path as you in the same environment. So that, like, say you go back to work as a waiter at Cheesecake Factory or whatever, and you have the worst night with the worst people at the, they're terrible. Well, what you used to do is get in your car and go smoke weed or do other drugs to cope with that. You go, all right. But instead, you can get in your car after work and come to the house that I own that you live in with some other guys and go, hey, God, man, the cheesecake, dude, bro, brutal. Like 6 tables in a row, like brutal. And they're like, brutal, dude. Let's go smoke a cig on the back porch. Sucks. Let's talk about it. Dude, I used to work at J. Alexander's, and it was the same thing, man. You get like 3 tables in a row. Dude, one night I just lost it. Dude, the therapeutic value. Basically, what I'm trying to say is the therapeutic value of addicts and alcoholics who are in early recovery living together. It's incredible. So that's what our company does, and we provide a little bit of structure. We make sure they come home for curfew.
What time is that?
It depends. When they first get in, it's 10 p.m. for the first 30 days, and it's 11 p.m. on weekdays and midnight on weekends thereafter.
Okay.
And so curfew, weekly random drug tests, making sure they're not using or have relapse in the house, making sure they're keeping up with their small chore, paying the rent, going to work, getting a job, getting a sponsor if they're in a 12-step fellowship, and things like that. So it's not very clinical. Mm-hmm. But it's very effective.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Is your role more than just owning the house and setting up some rules or some guidelines?
Well,
are you actively involved?
I'm not a clinician. Okay. So I see the guys, I talk to them all the time, but I'm not going in and I'm not a case manager. So I'm not going in there and going, hey, how is your mood this week? Let's do a clinical assessment. I'll check in. I'm like, hey man, how's it going? I hear you're not really doing your chore. Okay. What's up?
Okay.
Dude, my baby mama is, she keeps texting me and I'm just really torn up about that. I haven't seen my daughter in three months. I'm just bummed. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's talk about that, as a friend.
Right.
As a peer.
Yep.
So it's more of a peer run thing. And really, in a sense, my main role is to make sure that the structure of the house is solid because all the magic happens inside the house. If the rules are in place and everyone knows you can't be here if you're using drugs and alcohol or you don't want to follow the rules, then everything else flows from that.
Interesting.
Like I said, say they get off work and they're pissed off. Instead of going and using drugs, they come home and talk to their buddy.
Right.
I don't have to be there for them to go get that therapeutic value happening.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's but yeah, but doing what we're doing is tough enough, to have the integrity, frankly, to go, all right, we're going to stick to these rules, even if our house gets low, even if it's not good for business, we're going to stick to the quality of the environment.
How many guys will you have in? You have 2 homes, did you say? Or is it just 1?
We have 4 homes.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
And are these how big are these homes or how many guys are in them?
On average, there's 9 to 10 guys in a house, but these are all big.
Oh, wow.
These are all big homes, 5 to 6 bedroom. We have one, and one of the houses skews that 7 bedroom, big old boarding house. So, yeah, and these are guys. We sleep. There's 2 to a room. Many of the houses have single rooms for senior residents. But that's at first you're like, whoa, 10 guys in a house. It's actually not that crazy.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot.
It does, but we've got ample bathrooms, laundry facilities on site.
Yeah,
we're part of a voluntary ethics organization that determines how big the rooms have to be at bare minimum.
Yep.
Fire extinguishers, all that kind of stuff. Smoke detect. The houses are cleaned weekly or every 2 weeks. They're cleaned professionally. It's not that. It sounds crazy, but you're like, no. Once you go through,
I can totally see it.
Okay.
There's 7 people in our house, and our house is very small. So, are these guys from Nashville? Or are they coming in from other cities?
All over. I'd say half are from this area, maybe a little bit less.
Other half from Tennessee or from around the country?
All over.
Wow. Mm-hmm. How do you get the word out there?
We've been doing this for 4 years almost, and people know us. We run good houses, good quality houses, and so they know who we are. And it's all about who you know. And so, say someone from a treatment center in New York or wherever, Chicago, calls down here, a buddy that they know in the industry, and goes, "Man, I'm looking for sober living for this guy." Well, I know of a couple of good ones. Here they are, and we'll get calls. And we're on Google. We've got Google.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So you would have a lot of referrals from treatment centers and psychiatrists and so forth.
Yes,
that's kind of your sales funnel, if you will.
Yes, less like private practice psychiatrists and stuff like that. More institutional treatment centers, inpatient treatment centers.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's really cool, man. What tends to be when it goes wrong for these guys? What's some of the most common triggers?
Well, I mean, right now is pretty brutal with the coronavirus because these guys can't go to meetings in person. They can't go to 12-step meetings in person. So that's tough. I mean,
Ooh.
a common trigger, something happening at your job or like with a loved one, or really the key to early recovery is staying really honest and talking to other people about it, like getting a sponsor or with the guys in the house, not letting, because secrets keep you sick. That's why I love confession.
Yeah, that's what's exactly what I think is Psalm 32-ish right in there. It's talking about like when I kept it to myself, my bones waxed within me,
Yeah,
and when basically when I confessed, then I started to have this wholeness and healing.
Yeah,
you're totally right about that,
dude. So if they keep it in and then it festers, and then literally the disease of addiction, demons, whatever you want to call it, the character defects, it festers, and it goes, hey, yeah, that's cool. We can exploit that, and then you're out the door. So we do everything in our power to prevent that kind of thing from happening. We have weekly house meetings in the house where everyone has to share and go, hey, this is what's going on with me this week. Or like, someone keeps taking my laundry out. It's not done.
Okay.
I mean, that can set someone off over the edge. I remember being in early, recovery and going, it's just the littlest thing.
Yeah.
You'd have to figure out how to deal with it because your go-to mechanism isn't working, and it's like cigarettes,
Yeah.
That's
so. Do you or your partner go in and have those weekly meetings, or does someone else?
We've got them on
staff?
We've got a guy on staff who goes and does those. All of the house managers at each one of the houses holds their own meeting, but because of coronavirus, we're doing a Zoom meeting every week. So all the houses are in Zoom.
Okay. So at each of these houses, one of the guys who's in the paying rent in the program, so to speak, is going to be head of that house, or is a staff member?
He's basically a staff member. He's a senior resident that we promoted to be a house manager.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Interesting. Is that a model that you guys saw somewhere else, or is it just like, oh, we could do this?
It's a common model within sober living. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Fascinating. So you mentioned that you used to be into Marxism, and that's real close to communism, correct?
Correct.
This is getting above my head really quick. When did some of those views change? How would you view that now?
Those views changed around the time that I through my conversion process.
Okay.
Because ultimately, I think communism is a type of Christian heresy. In a way, I mean, Marx was Jewish, and many of the early communists were Jewish or whatever. But regardless, in my opinion, Marxism is effectively a Christian heresy. So this whole communism, like commune, right? Communal living. But with communism, the utopia, you've got to go through some pretty brutal authoritarian phases with that's what happens to get there. I mean, that's how it was outlined. Because in Acts, I believe the apostles and the disciples and the early Christians were living in communion with one another, and spiritual communion always, but like literal living in community with one another, and they shared things in common. And I think, was it someone came to Paul or Peter and was like, they're like, dude, did you not, I thought you sold some cattle. And they're like, yeah, I sold some cattle. And they're like, you didn't give me all your proceeds. Like you took some of your proceeds, but that's not the deal here. And they're like, no, I didn't. And then Paul cursed them.
Yeah.
And they dropped dead. You know, I mean, so yes. And like the lamb will lie with the lion and things like that, but it's trying to import the kingdom of God now materially. But the problem is the underlying tenets make it especially vicious. The fact that it's materialistic and philosophically, there's no transcendental spiritual world. There's no telos with humanity outside of abolishing class struggle. So that started changing when I learned about the gulags. I was like, oh wait, Mao and Pol Pot and Stalin, they killed way more. They killed all the people in World War II. Like that's what I mean. The Holocaust was horrific. But if you're just looking at numbers, dude, I mean, the communists just absolutely creamed like their own people.
Even their own, I was going to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, like the Great Leap Forward in China, like starved millions of people. And it's like, I went, I wonder what's going on there, you know? Because I had this kind of disgust with capitalism at an early age. So I was like, wait, like, man's made for more than just transactional living, you know? Man, and I still believe that. Like, man's made, you know, and life's a trade-off. I'm not, you know, I'm not a socialist by any means, nor would I consider myself a proper capitalist, but like that all changed when I came into contact with the church, because the church has its own opinions on economics, like, and how that should be ordered and how like human life, because the church is concerned with human flourishing, right? And economics is just one way that humans can flourish.
Yeah.
Like that's, you know, I got into an argument on the Instagram the other day, yesterday, with a guy who's like, what do you mean you don't like capitalism? I'm like, I mean, they're like, well, how do you think all these Africans got lifted out of poverty? Well, obviously advancements in technology because of the capitalist system, right? Like, what's his name? Kenny Borlaug, he was not a botanist. He was like an agricultural science guy. And he like came up with this strain of wheat that can survive anywhere and like survive anything. So yeah, no one's starving anymore. And, you know, people are still starving, but like the numbers are way down.
Yep.
You know, I mean, that one guy alone, like, created this kind of wheat that like grows anywhere. And because he was getting paid by a lab because they wanted to figure out how to make more wheat.
Yep.
Okay. That's fine. But like the biggest thing is like, well, okay, well, who's keeping the Sabbath holy now? You know, like everyone knows Chick-fil-A. Why? Because they have delicious sandwiches. They've gotten some hot water with the gay marriage stuff, and they don't open on Sunday.
Yep.
I mean, it's astonishing, and it's a classic thing when you want Chick-fil-A on Sunday.
100%.
I'm like, why can't I get this? Where's my spicy chicken sandwich? Oh wait, it's Sunday.
It's
I can't
Sunday,
go.
yeah.
But like, who else? I mean, I remember my mom being like, I don't shop at Walgreens because they're open on Sunday and Christmas. And I was like, I remember growing up and being like, whoa. But now she does. I mean,
yeah,
it's like you succumb.
Yeah, a lot of people do. Yeah. Where do you fall now with capitalism? And it sounds like you're not a fan of just traditional. You're a fan of capitalism, but you have some other thoughts on it.
Yeah, definitely.
What are those thoughts?
I mean, I think that finance. Look at the consumer debt in America, the crisis that we have, and you know, some people might say, "Oh, well, that's because of human nature," right? Okay, yeah, and that's what the rebuttal I would say to the drug argument, like legalizing all drugs. Well, you know, heroin, aside from like medicinal anesthesia. I don't know of like a really good use for heroin. Like I'm talking like post-apocalyptic. I got to cut your leg off. Here's some heroin.
Yep.
Honestly, like the recreational use of heroin, even I've never heard of anyone microdosing heroin.
No. 100%.
So like, you know, the argument is like, well, some of these things are inherently wrong, right? Like usury. So the classical definition of usury is paying interest for loaning money, right? I don't think like, and in the Middle Ages and throughout Christendom, Christians didn't participate in usury. Like we didn't lend money. That was just not a thing, right? I don't think that lending money per se is evil, right? I think that some of these predatory, like the fact that kids are like, the fact that in America, I think my daughter got mailed a credit card. She's like 6 years old. You know, they probably didn't know how old. Yeah.
Right.
That should
predatory.
That should be illegal.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like 18% interest.
Yep.
I mean, the consumer debt crisis in America is so insane, and no one talks about it. You know, because people don't like being in debt. There's a reason why Dave Ramsey is huge. You know, and why he's got a gigantic facility out in Franklin.
Right.
There's a reason, because there's people who are caught in this. And there's a reason why he's like, don't even get a credit card. Don't even have a credit score. It's BS. I'm with him on that. And so, you know, like this kind of finance capitalism that I'm talking about is, I think, really opposed to human flourishing at the end of the day. Like, oh, well, you can go buy what you want. Well, okay. True freedom is freedom to act to do good things.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not you don't have the freedom to go murder somebody, right? But I want to be really free. Okay, that's not real freedom. I'm sorry. That's why you go to jail and you get your real freedom taken away if you go act too free, quote unquote, and go murder somebody. So with capitalism, it's like, yeah, I mean, a lot of good things have come from capitalism in my life, right? My dad is a very successful businessman, yada, yada. My own company, we take rent and we take a fee and we provide a service, right? That's what capitalism is, at least is what everyone says, right? But when I bring up things like the consumer debt crisis or the incredible interest, like interest rates, and the fact that no one rests on the Sabbath, really, you're not really expected to in a way. I mean, society does sigh a bit. There's not much traffic and stuff like that, but like it used to be like, all right, you're resting.
Yep.
We're resting now. And if you want to work outside of essential services, nuh-uh, we are not doing that.
Yeah.
You gotta get all that stuff done on Saturday, on a, whatever. You can't do that today. Like we're not. That's uncouth. Anyway, so I lean more towards what's called distributism, which is an economic model that was outlined in a papal document called Rerum Novarum and extrapolated by G.K. Chesterton, who you may have heard of. And a lot of people look at it and go, "Oh, that's socialism." And a lot of people look at that and go, "Well, that's just capitalism." What is that? And essentially what distributism is a model of living, an economic model that is very theoretical. It's never been like implemented, right? It's never, because it just hasn't. That the end of economics is human flourishing, right? The end of work is human flourishing. The end of any human activity should be their flourishing, even if it's as paradoxical as being martyred, right? And so with distributism, basically the tenets of and I'm sorry to all my distributist friends, I'm not the best ambassador for this. I actually don't give distributism too much thought these days, given that the Maslow's hierarchy of needs in my own life are like, everyone's a little bit more concerned about like food supply chain right now than like survival. Whether or not finance capitalism is usurious or whatever. So, basically, the core tenets of distributism are that private property, the ownership of private property, should be as widespread as possible among families, because unlike the modern view of humanity and society, the human individual is the core unit of society. Most people think that, right? But we all know that the family is indeed the core unit of society. Like, very few people live outside of the context of a family, right? And the ones that do, I don't know. It's just not. We're made to be our Lord came into a family. He didn't have to do that. Why did he come into a family and not the collective? Why didn't he just come as a Superman out of the dirt instead of a human family? I mean, it's a mystery, but it's also pointing to something higher, a reality about how human people are and what they are and how they've been designed and all that kind of stuff. And so distributism is basically like, hey, the economy should be set up and encouraged by the law to provide to shield regular people, normal people, everyone, to shield the population from usury. So hardcore predatory interest rates that can put you into debt slavery. And at the same time, it should encourage the widespread ownership of private property for the flourishing of the family unit. So it's basically, you could say it's kind of like a modified capitalism in a way. Yeah. E.F. Schumacher, I believe was his name. He did a great book called Small is Beautiful back in the 90s maybe, but it's basically about like the revitalization. You see this in common in culture now. Like, this understanding is still like, when you go to someone's house and you pick up, say they got a cool thing on their coffee table, you go, "Man, oh, that's cool. I like that." If you're at a party and they might go, "Oh yeah, that's cool. I mean, I got that at Target. Isn't that crazy?" Right? And you go, oh, really? Anyway. Anyway, but if they're like, oh, dude, I bought that at the shop down in Hillsborough Village. Like, it's this cool thing. This dude out in like White's Creek makes them. He like finds these logs on the Cumberland and makes them into this cool thing. And I bought one. You'd go, really? Up in White's Creek? Like what part? Like where? Like if you're familiar. I don't really know. I think he's it's in White's Creek. He must live near the river. You get to talking about it. You're not like, oh, a Target. I guess I can go get that. You know?
Right. Yep.
Like we're designed to go, oh, that's cool. You know the guy who did that. Oh, like, and so in the same way, like, I guess I don't know where I was going with that, but like that's the way. So distributism is basically kind of like a modified, like so the small business like Sunday or whatever, the small business movement that we've seen over the past 20 years, where people are like, oh, this shirt's from a guy, he makes it down the street. In fact, there's a shirt maker that I know who's down the street from this shop,
like more of a maker, artisanal.
Yeah. But moreover, it's like we see that in this culture where we're like, oh, that's cool. We like that. Why do we like that? You know, it's like cutting through some of and like you could go, oh, well, because the corporatism is like sucked America dry of any culture. Well, but like it's cool to know where you got your stuff. It's cool to know that it's not just some faceless.
But what does that have to do with this distributism?
So basically, what I'm trying to say is that our culture and human civilization, up until very recently, has been working in very small confines. So like they've been living in very small ways. So like,
okay,
like I was talking to my wife the other day, and I was looking at our neighbors, and our neighbors are fine, they're good. I like my neighbors, but I was like, you know, Rebecca, back before the 20s, I mean, I would know everyone on this block because I'd be related to them. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
And I'm not like I don't want to like spur on some sort of romanticism about pre-industrial revolution living. I mean, you died of cholera and you couldn't get clean water. You didn't have diapers, you know, and like there's trade-offs.
Yep.
But distributism, basically, what I'm trying to say is that the distributist impulse to be around people who are making things or to support things that are made by people that you could ostensibly know, and that it's not just some giant silo of consumer goods coming from like 6 different companies that are filling your house.
I see.
So, you know, getting everyone like the 40 acres and a mule stuff, the proposition that happened during the Reconstruction of America after the Civil War, like that's kind of a distributist idea.
I see. Interesting. It's almost like, and not even necessarily in a bad way, but it's almost like a decentralized socialism, just a little bit.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, people don't own things in common.
They wouldn't?
No.
Oh, okay. So I thought you were going to own, your family would own the property.
Yeah. I mean, your family would own the property and
just
the means of production of what you're doing. And, you know, I mean, distributism is designed, or rather it's postulated on a more agrarian, like society.
Right.
And in my opinion, I don't know if it could ever be done.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. It makes sense.
But like the move to, like, personally, I don't work on Sunday. I also own my own company, so I don't have to quote unquote have to work on Sunday.
Yeah.
But like, if someone's like, man, I really don't want to work on Sunday, I always encourage them to go, don't. Like, tell them it's a religious thing. Like, don't work on Sunday if you don't have to. Like, just go home. Tell them you'll catch up on Saturday. I mean, we got Saturday because of the labor movement, which I'm all for, but like at the end of the day, like Saturday ain't the Sabbath. You can work on a Saturday. Yeah. Saturdays are for the boys, but they can also be for the workplace if you really need it to be.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. Yeah, I think I don't spend a lot of time thinking about this, but the one thing I've wrestled with for some time, and I do not have a better idea or a solution by any stretch here, but the one thing that capitalism does require is that everyone looks out for their own.
Yes.
And that's not necessarily a biblical way of viewing the world.
Right.
And so I think again, I don't have a solution. I don't have a better idea, but that's probably the rub. That's probably my biggest rub with the capitalism.
Yeah. People are encouraged to look out for their own, and because of, and it's twofold. I mean, there's a cultural issue, but capitalism accelerates it. So with the disintegration of the traditional family, right? The traditional family unit as being the core unit of society, and then everyone pretending that it's just, you can go, it's just a individual, right?
Mm-hmm.
With that happening, capitalism doesn't go, hey, wait, don't do that. No, it goes, wait, you want to work on Sunday?
Perfect.
Cool. I got shareholders to pay.
Yeah, exactly.
I got returns to make.
Yep.
And capitalism is often argued as like a value neutral kind of system. Like, oh, it's just like someone said this online yesterday. It's like the ground you walk on. It's just a natural market. All of the defects of capitalism are predicated on the culture. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but like, when your culture and when your country, when your nation, your natus, that's when your birthplace and your people don't care if you're working on Sunday, and don't care if, in fact, think it's weird, like Chick-fil-A is closed on Sunday. I bet a third of people who like Chick-fil-A don't even know why it's closed on Sunday. I bet a third of them don't even know why. Like, why the hell are they closed on Sunday? I mean, I think it was like John Adams or one of the founding fathers, like, America is great but it's made for a pious and religious people. It won't work otherwise. It's like maybe capitalism is the same way, where it's like, and I've read some of Adam Smith's book, but like, I mean, it's huge. Mm-hmm. It's so big. It's huge. But like, it just doesn't seem like it's working out like that. It just seems like it doesn't matter. If you want to go get a payday loan and put your kids in debt, and you want to go buy a car and put your kids in debt for an insane, rate, and you're going and preying on people who aren't financially savvy and shouldn't have to be. Like, there's more important things than to know about the fine print in your loan. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah.
Like, it just seems like it could be. It should be a different way.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. Proverbs talks about. I can't recall the chapter and verse, but it talks about not charging, basically, excess interest to the poor.
Yeah.
And that does happen quite a bit. So
all the time.
What about what are your thoughts on what's going on right now, just with the virus and how we shut down the country and?
I think,
reopening.
I watched, I'm not a medical expert. I have a bachelor's degree in philosophy. Okay. I don't have any, I did really well in anatomy honors in high school.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. But my uncle was a doctor. My cousin's a doctor. I got a bunch of medical people in my family, but, so I take this with a grain of salt. I saw videos coming out of Wuhan in late January of people dropping in the street. And I texted my brothers and my dad, and I said, we got another SARS. We got SARS coming. And then China locked down 100 million people. And I said, we got an issue in America. Then Italy started getting creamed.
Yeah. Let's get roasted over there for a stretch.
They got roasted.
Oh, man.
And I thought, uh-oh, we're about to get really creamed here. Like bad. And so I freaked out. I was like, okay, Lord, like, let's, I trust in you, and I trust in the reason you gave me, the rationality.
Right.
And I also trust in the prudence you've given me. And so I'm going to buy some food. And this is before everyone started flooding the stores. I was like, I'm going to buy some food, blah, blah, blah. And, I don't know. I was talking to I went to a checkup with my primary care physician in March. And I said, Doc, what's up? He's like, we should have shut the borders back in January. And I go, yeah. And he goes, yeah. I mean, but at the end of the day, the world is so interconnected. There's really, unless you're really bugging out and like bunkered up somewhere, there's really it's going to wash through. And so I talked to I took my oldest daughter to her pediatrician. This is all anecdotal, y'all. I mean, I went to my doctor, the pediatrician, and the pediatrician was like, I was wearing a mask. I got I don't know, am I on video?
Yeah.
I got this like,
What do you got there?
I got this like face covering with the Cairo on it. I got from Baratus Catholic.
Look at that.
Check out Baratus Catholic on Instagram.
You can buy them online?
Yeah. Or this is census. This is what is this? Not Baratus Catholic is great. I got it from not Census Fidelium. Something Census Fidelus. I got it's in Latin. I got
Is
to
it
look
for the virus? Is that for the virus?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
Okay.
well, it literally just came in the mail today, but I have an N95 that I wear.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I literally right before I came here, I was like, oh, it came in, cool.
Yeah, that looks a little more cooler than an N95.
Yeah, but it's got like,
oh, that is kind of cool. Look at that.
yeah, I know I look like I'm an Antifa or whatever, like Black Bloc. I'm about to like bust your, Chase Bank store open or whatever.
sure.
Yeah, but trust me, I'm not. But unless if they don't lower that interest rate, though,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think the president should have said, all right, listen up, boomers. If you're over 55 and you don't want to work because you think you could get sick from this, we're going to pay you a stipend. And if you get fired from your job, that's a civil rights issue for the next year. We're going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else, if you don't feel comfortable working, we're not going to pay you. Well, I don't know. We're not going to pay you, but I don't know. But if you get fired, it's like a civil rights issue. Like,
yep.
If you're like, I don't know, work something out where it's like a modified system where like, all right, the most vulnerable people here are the oldest people.
Right.
And like, if you're really, really worried about this, you have to wear a mask and mandatory mask stuff. Okay. The real question is like, it's not Italy yet.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a baby SARS now. And you're like, okay, it's bad. 100,000 people have died in America. That's what the news is saying. And God rest their souls. It's bad. Mm-hmm. But like, there is a point because of how our economy set up, because widespread property ownership is not is not happening, and widespread self-sufficiency isn't happening. There is a point at which the cure is worse than the disease. And so, my pediatrician, my kid's pediatrician, echoed that and said, look, I mean, herd immunity needs to happen. And I don't think we're going to get overwhelmed. I mean, my sister-in-law who works at the medical ICU at Vanderbilt, they've just opened up another COVID floor. Like they've opened up a separate floor from their ICU that's going to just deal with COVID people. And like, there's some really sick people in there and they're all old and like, or they've got really bad underlying conditions and they're younger, but younger being like 40s. Yeah. And like, there was one girl who was 30 and like almost died, but came back and, it's like, okay, well, it's baby SARS. And unfortunately, when the SARS in like 2003 or whatever happened, international travel was 10 times less than it is now. Wow. I mean, the reason why Italy, like I read this article or I heard it from a friend that one of the reasons why Italy got so creamed, northern Italy, is because the amount of flights coming in from China in northern Italy is crazy. Like
just in general? Yeah. That's a common thing? Or the virus pushed them there?
No, like just
really?
Normally.
Huh, that's surprising to me.
And as getting back to the birth rate thing and the age, like before I proceed about the birth rate thing, a really good book to read is What to Expect When No One's Expecting. I can't remember the guy's name who wrote it. Really good book on the issues with the West in particular having non-replacement levels of their birth rate happening. So Italy, northern Italy especially, is like one of the oldest parts of Europe. Not just like civilizationally, but demographically. They're really ancient people. They're like in their 80s and no one's having kids. And so, the majority of the people there are old. Now, that's a static number regardless of how many old people you're going to have, but like they just happen to be a really old population. And, Italy's wonderful. I've been there, but Italy ain't the United States. And I know they've got like good healthcare and Italian doctors are probably really great and everything. But at the end of the day, like the U.S. has really good healthcare, and knock on wood, I hope, we don't get into a situation where proportionally we're at the same level as what's happening in Italy and in America, which could happen. I mean, but this is a major event. This is like, And I guess the last thing I'll say about all of this is I was talking to a guy who works for a treatment center the other day. We met for a meeting. It was my first in-person meeting I've had with someone outside my business partner and my dad, in
wow. And how long?
Like 60 days.
No way.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And so, I mean, I've been to like Publix,
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I've been out.
Yep.
I'm not like bunkered.
Yep.
I came here.
Yep.
Elbow bump. But he's like, as an addict, I heard someone say at our treatment center, like, yeah, we're taking precautions, but like, let's treat the thing we know is going to kill us, addiction, and worry about like leave it up to God and like prudence with this pandemic. Like, and like I said earlier, my sister-in-law told me that there were more overdoses than COVID people like a month and a half ago.
Man,
And it's like
crazy to believe that.
I mean, the suicide rate is going to go through the roof.
Yeah.
It already is
It
up.
already is. Divorces are up.
Divorces and like, it's human beings, which is this is the grand irony of the situation is human beings. It's not good for man to be alone.
Right.
And it's good for man to be in community. And another reason why I think Italy got creamed is because they kiss each other on the cheeks. They're always hugging each other and kissing and
eating pasta
out of big bowls. I mean, not to be stereotypical. I've been there. It's like that.
Yeah.
It's like they're giving kisses on the cheeks and like they don't want to, they're not going to, they've been through a lot, the Italians. They're not going to listen to some Chinese virus coming through. Like they don't care about some bird flu. They're like, all right, whatever. We're going to go to church. We're going to do whatever.
Yep.
And they got creamed.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we need to be careful here, but we really, really need to be careful about our community and about our families. You got to stay tight.
Yeah.
You got to go to God. To stay sane. I mean, I was on the edge, like right when this started hitting. I was having like panic attacks. I was having a spirit of fear. And I just was like, whoa, okay. I've got my seeds. I'm growing food. My little box garden out back. I got I have a mild bug out plan. It's nothing crazy, but it's, I was living in the spirit of fear and I just realized I was like, I need to pray about this. Like, okay, say like the plague happened. This isn't the plague. This isn't the bubonic plague. It's it's SARS,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not even like in World War in 1918 when I think it was 1918 when the Spanish flu
it was
came.
1918. Yeah.
Dude, no one talks about the Spanish flu. No one talks. They all only talk about World War I and World War II. I think it killed more people than both wars combined. It killed like 50 million or more than World War I combined. It killed like 50 million people, 50 to 100 million people across the world. And no one talks about it. They're like, oh, well, yeah. I mean, and people did just get sick. They didn't have antibiotics. They didn't even know what viruses were.
Right.
They got sick and died all the time. So people were less sensitive to it. But like, y'all, they just kept calm and carried on and buried their dead and moved on. I mean, it was brutal, but like, I favor the opinion of those who are like, yeah, look, it's bad. But we've got to take care of, and now people call it self-care. It's like, we got to take care of our self-care, our mental health. And we got to take care of ourselves and flourish as human beings.
Yep.
And not cower in fear with this, be smart, but at the same time, like, don't completely obliterate the economy.
Right.
In service to like keeping, I don't know. It's just in service to keeping a few people like, a fractional more people alive because it's gonna come.
Yeah, it's gonna come, and I mean, it is tough. I mean, it's kind of a tough thing to talk about because the question really is how many people are going to die anyway with the age and the pre-existing conditions and those types of things, and and I think when it came out, I don't know, it was so big, so fast, so unprecedented. Hindsight's the only way to figure out if that was the right decision or not. But in the moment, I have to think. Not, you're doing what you think you got to do.
Yeah.
It's just now we're at May 22nd or whatever it is. It's the only Memorial Day is Monday. It feels like the whole year's been wasted.
I know. It's like crazy.
I guess that why aren't we reopening a little quicker now that we know what we know?
Yeah.
What's taken so long?
I don't know. So. I think people just don't want to be. I think people want to be cautious, and they don't. Politicians are going to politic, and they don't want to. They don't want to get caught with their pants down,
Right.
doing the wrong thing during a freaking global thing.
For sure.
you
Well,
know?
particularly in election year and all of
Yeah,
these types of things.
absolutely.
And then also even if the government does reopen everything, it's going to take a lot of time for the economy to get back because of consumer confidence.
Yeah.
Just because Publix is open don't mean people want to go there.
Absolutely.
Just because the gym is open doesn't mean people are going to come back.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just because the restaurant's open doesn't mean anyone's going to come there. If Lord willing, we can have a Titans game again, doesn't mean the attendance is going to be great.
Yeah, man.
I mean, that's like where you put this fear in people's hearts and minds for months, and then you try to, open up the economy again and get things going. Well, that doesn't just go away overnight.
Right. Yeah, it's true. And one thing I've noticed throughout all this is that it's become very political, right? Like, I mean, I met a guy, I was meeting with a guy the other day who had, he lives out in like Rutherford County, and he's like, dude, this is a total government conspiracy. Like the government made, it's not even real. It's like,
yeah.
I was like, dude, I mean, I know one guy who died from it.
Yep.
And my sister-in-law, unless she's like in on some giant Truman Show level conspiracy, is seeing people who are suffering from SARS at Vanderbilt. I mean, I told her, I said, well, you need to talk to my sister-in-law. I mean, I love conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, dude.
But you don't think this is one of them.
Tell me more. Like, why do you think that? Like, let me freak me out, dude.
Yeah. Let me get my brain around this.
Let me get my notepad out. Let me pull my voice memo. So, but like, talk to them, and then like my next two, my neighbors. This guy's married to a doctor, and a nice guy walks his dog outside. Every time he steps outside, he's got a mask on. Like during the middle of the day.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna like knock the guy, but it's like, okay, well, you got just this huge disconnect.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I fear that it's going to, if it continue, Americans aren't going to stay quarantined for too long. Just the sheriffs across America are not going to be enforcing these quarantine rules for this thing. They're just not. They're already seeing evidence of that.
Yeah.
And Americans, we're crazy.
Yeah.
We came here to flee stuff and like to fight. We love to fight. We're not going to sit around.
Well, we did at one point anyway.
Yeah.
The question remains if that's still
I
in
think
our
it's
blood.
still true.
You know what I mean?
I think it's still true, but now you're seeing like kind of biblical, like Old Testament language about cleanliness and stuff, like like attitude about people. If you wash your hands, you're unclean. Like,
yeah,
you're ritually unclean. Like, put your mask on, or you're unclean. I mean, I was literally reading through Leviticus right now, and it's like,
interesting.
If the man has emissions, he's ritually unclean for whatever. And you're like, okay, and I get that. Yeah, you need to go take a bath, and you're unclean till sundown. I guess like you can take a breather, but like, I mean, I don't like it's the same with the mask stuff now.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. Thanks for being on. This was fantastic. Anything else you wanted to cover on here?
That's it, man.
Okay.
I don't know how long I've been sitting here yapping.
It's 4:35 now, so I know we got to go soon. But you came early, so we got to be getting on to 3 hours, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, this was great, man. This was
a
real pleasure.
Is it Lincoln? Yeah, sorry, dude. Sorry to make you sit through all this boring stuff.
That's his job, man.
It's his job. You train up the child, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Lincoln. I appreciate your work on the podcast.
Hey, well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man.
It's my first podcast appearance. I've always loved to talk. My wife is probably when we listen to this, is grateful that I have some outlet just to talk about.
Right,
Yeah.
Rebecca, right?
Rebecca, that's right.
Did I meet Rebecca at the party?
I think you might have.
It was very much in passing.
It could have been. She talks even more than me, though.
Well, let me know what Rebecca thinks of the podcast.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, and you might have to be back on again.
I'll have to promise.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll have to promise her I'll watch some reality TV shows with her to get her
as
to
a
listen
trade-off.
To. Yeah, it's a trade-off.
Is that what she likes?
It's a trade-off. Yeah.
Is that what she likes?
It's capitalism right there.
Yeah.
It's a trade-off.
All right, man. Pleasure having you on. Thank you very much.
Of course.